have trouble with Supra. I'm gonna.
Hello and welcome to the New Zealand Esports Racing Series, where we are back in Season 2 in 2024. It is the 20th of September, and we continue our online season today with Round 3, a special event, 2 races for your viewing pleasure tonight. Not one long race, but 2 shorter races with a qualifying session and the second race being set from the results of the first one. Lots of points available and up for grabs today for the drivers. They're going to be very, very keen to get out there and push themselves to get some really, really good results as we head towards the live finals in Wellington on the 16th of November at the Respawn Esports Centre. We're currently live on Twitch, on the Respawn Esports Centre Twitch and the NZ Sim Racing TV Twitch and YouTube. In the commentary box, once again, my name is George Cook and I'm joined by the ever-eloquent Nathan Howe. Nathan, welcome back once again. Round 3, we're nearly at halfway distance. We have a couple of great races at the beginning. We started off at Red Bull Ring. We went to Brands Hatch. Now it's time for the fictional tracks.
Yeah. Good evening, George. Good evening, everybody watching. And yeah, how crazy how time flies. Nearly at that halfway point of the season. How good! It's been a cracking season already. We've seen plenty of moving and shaking. And like you say, this is going to be the double header, which is a little bit more frantic, a little bit more. The action's very condensed because instead of one nice big race, it's split down the middle, and it's that much more crazy, isn't it? So. And we're in Japan for this one too. Of course, we started in Austria, we've gone to Britain, and now we're here in Japan at the the first race at least at the Kyoto circuit, which is a fictitious track. Doesn't exist in real life, but it is a very, very well put together circuit. If there's one thing that Gran Turismo really excels in, it's their original circuits, isn't it, George?
It certainly is. And of course, we get to go to a second one as well, Tokyo Expressway. And not only just the regular Tokyo Expressway, the south counterclockwise, I think easily the best out of all of them. I think there's 7 or 6 layouts, a whole bunch of them. Really, really cool. This one, we've got the docks, we've got a few other places. It's going to be brilliant. And of course, the time of day going to play a factor in this as well. Kyoto's going to be at sunset. Tokyo's going to be in the middle of the night, so we get that beautiful Tokyo skyline view for that second race, which is going to be exceptional viewing. Welcome in to everyone in chat. Lovely to have you all in here. We're looking forward to getting started with our first qualifying session, the only qualifying session, despite us having 2 races tonight. But first, let's jump through our season information, our sponsors, and we'll get to the standings of where things are at and who's going to be in Div 1 this time and who's going to be out. Of course, 6 rounds of online season, which started a couple of weeks ago, leading up to the grand finals on the 16th of November. The drivers earn points throughout these initial 6 rounds to get themselves a place at the live finals in Wellington. Only the top 10 in Division 1 will end up with a seat at the live finals. At the end of the season, of course, we have the championship points earned for their finishing places in the online season, and those championship points carry over into the live event. 3 divisions of driving and an improved point system, of course. The dynamic system at work, that means Div 1 and 2 are floating. You get enough points in Div 2, you move up to Div 1. You lose enough races in Div 1, you move down to Div 2. Very, very cool system for this season. That gives those Division 2 drivers a chance to break up into that Division 1 category. Of course, if you don't serve a race, and Nathan, we've had a few of those across the season already, you do find yourself suddenly with a whole bunch of points that are potentially missing from your standings.
Yeah, well, the floating divisions does mix up the order a bit, and of course, it's a difference from last season where once the divisions were set, that was it. We have already seen a bit of moving and shaking, and there are some people that are kind of fluctuating between the top of Div 2 and then the bottom of Div 1. So, you know, it must be weird going from the fastest of one group to the bottom of another group, and it's just some of those drivers. And you know, as the season progresses, obviously it's going to become harder to break into that top div. So the guys who are really on the borderline, because again, only the top 10 make it through to the live final. So the people that are there or thereabouts, they're running out of time to really lock in their box seat for a crack in the live finals.
Exactly right. So let's talk about our sponsors of the New Zealand Esports Racing Series. First up, of course, our primary sponsor is Toyota Gazoo Racing New Zealand, who have generously provided some amazing prizes. Of course, this year's winner of the live finals and the ERS season, NZERS Season 2, earns a Toyota Gazoo Racing New Zealand factory-supported testing session in a real Toyota 86 trophy car. Such a cool prize, and congratulations to whoever wins that, because that's super exciting, going from the sim racing world into the real-life motorsport world. Very, very exciting. Respawn Esports Center, of course, and Secret Labs, who are providing amazing support in the broadcasting, the administration, and, of course, playing host to the live finals event in Wellington. Then Next Level Racing have also provided a generous amount of prizes too. The categories for those prizes are now actually announced. So the videos that we've been watching for the last couple of weeks, Nath, we can finally put some positions to those prizes. The GT Light rig, that's going to be going to second place overall, and the haptics are going to go to third place. That's an exciting prize. Let's have another quick rewatch of the prizes from the Next Level Racing, and then we'll talk a little bit about them. Then we'll move on to the rest of our sponsors and get into the race. Some very cool prizes there from Next Level Racing. Thank you so much to all of our sponsors here for the New Zealand esports racing season. I'm sure all of the drivers are so keen to get their hands on those prizes. So top 3 finish at the live finals is what they're banking on, but got to get there first. So let's talk about, Nathan, the championship standings. Let's see where things are at, because we had quite the race at Brands Hatch. Things at the top of Division 1 are as even Stevens as there could possibly be. 57 points apiece for Matthew McEwen and Caleb Birtles.
Yeah, absolutely. It's and again, you know, with 2 races and 2 of the favourites to win snacking a victory each, obviously there's this is going to be the one that sort of we decide who's got the advantage. And of course, you couldn't have much more of a varied race as you could with Brands Hatch, could you? Different tyres, different strategies that we saw playing out, and obviously some people got a bit choked up with traffic, and you know that does cost you a bit of time in the long run. But yeah, look, I think we've got a bit more of a, not necessarily a calmer race, but because this is a double header, they're shorter, so they're a bit more, you know, there's not so much strategy to think of as far as the tactical mind that was required for a race like round 2. So yeah, this will be an interesting one to sort of see they've both got a win to their name, but who's really got the advantage. And of course, there are other people out there vying for a race win, aren't there? It's not just all about Caleb and McEwen.
Especially with the points that are available today. Someone could go home this week with 2 wins to their name. That's going to be a huge bonus in the championship, and that could upset this battle at the top, P1 and P2. Of course, don't count out Simon Bishop. He's one that I'm going to have my eye on. Went from 14th to 3rd in round 1. 3rd to drop to 4th, unfortunately, for Brands Hatch, because Lewis Atkinson pinched the 3rd place at the end of the race. Lewis is only 2 points behind Simon as well. So both of them really still in it. I think even the top 5, you said last time about Monkey Matt, do not count out Monkey Matt. And I don't think we
Well,
should, because 42 points, he's right there as well.
well, anybody who knows Monkey Matt's credentials and what he's achieved and what he's done in the past, you'd be a fool to discount him, especially this early in the season. And like you say, we have 2 races tonight, and they're both worth full points. We're not doing any of that half points because it's a double header or anything like that. So, it's easy for us to speculate and say, oh, well, McEwen's got a good shot or Caleb's got a good shot. But I mean, truth be told, like you say, how many people could, at the end of 2 races tonight, the order could be completely flipped on its head. So that's half the fun of motorsports, isn't it? And especially sim racing, is that we can only speculate so much, but once the race actually begins, that drama is completely unscripted. So I mean, who do you count on? So it's going to be cool. It's going to be cool. We'll get underway very shortly, won't we? Though we're just
we certainly will. Just a quick note here: we've got Nemo, so Cameron Neem not able to make it tonight, sadly.
Yes,
So that does mean that we elevate. It is Biswas Supra who's leading Division 2 at the moment. So another challenger enters the field. That means we've got Scotty Ray, Stone Harbour, and Supra today, who came up from the lower divisions in Division 2, potentially to upset the order. Unfortunately for Nemo, though, he's hovering right at the cutoff zone. He's in 10th right now.
In breaking news, sorry, literally you say that, Supra has had to pull out because of connection issues and dramas. So that means that Angus Allen gets bumped up into Division 1 for tonight's racing, who's obviously another Div 2 front runner who's now finding himself at the bottom of Div 1.
And amazing, because they're both on 20 points. So both Biswas and Angus Allen, both on equal points. They've done a similar switcheroo that Matthew and Caleb have been doing at the top of Div 1. So that's really good for Angus Allen. He's got a really good shot to elevate himself up today. But yeah, 3 Division 2, formerly Division 2 drivers, now up in Division 1. Fantastic work by them. Keep an eye on tonight for Airborne. He's in P11. He needs to get himself up into that top 10, so a good result today. And he's only a couple of points away. So a good result in the top 10, at least in one of the races, will really set him up to get himself up into the live finals. We're going to be heading towards halfway season very, very soon. Let's jump into the info and actually start talking about a few of the drivers, even more than we have right now. Of course, the first race will be at Kyoto Driving Park. We get to talk about this lovely man here with the moustache, Rhys Davidson from Auckland, Big Head Ted, as we all know and love him. He's finished seventh in the 2023 NZ Esports Racing Series final, undisputed Limbo champion, disputed shuffle race GOAT, 500 plus races in Grand Theft Auto, wins as well. And of course, he's an Aussie. Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So Rhys been an awesome competitor. We hope to see him pull off some really good moves today. I don't think he's had quite the season that he deserves so far, Nate.
No, look, he's had a bit of a rough start to this one, and he's a bit of a resident drifter as well. He's very into the sort of the underground drifting scene in Gran Turismo. He can, he's definitely good at the counter steering and the oversteering. Yeah, he did well last year, so I think he's definitely got that expectation to at least qualify for the live finals, and he is currently still within reach of making that happen. But yeah, look, I'm sure he's put in the miles for this one, because I mean, like we said, the longer the season goes on, the harder it gets to really close those gaps, isn't it? So he's yeah, look, he's definitely not one to discount, but yeah, he's just not quite having it all his way.
That's right. Now we go and look at Cameron Neem, of course, away this week, and what a shame to be away in Singapore. Just in time for the Singapore Grand Prix as well. How disappointing for this man right here, of course, known as Nemo from Nelson, finished 9th in the 2023 NZ Esports Racing Series, the champion of the Oz NZ ACC Endurance Series, graduated high school, currently working as a forklift driver, and I can imagine he takes the racing lines at work to be the best forklift driver on the job.
Yeah, well, he's obviously decided that Formula One's, and what a destination too, Singapore. Obviously, that's going to be a great race, but I mean, come on, Nemo, you'd much rather be racing, the New Zealand, the National Esports Series, right? Come on. No, he's a good guy, and yeah, it's like you say, we've still got a lot of season to go, so he might not need a drop round, so to speak.
That's exactly right. Now, a third driver profile. He's a face and a name that we all recognize. Matthew Smith from Christchurch. It's Monkey Matt NZ. Finished third, of course, in the 2023 NZ Esports Racing Series. He's an FIA Rally Star Continental finalist for the Esports Rally NZ second place, FIA GT Championship regional finalist, and a World Tour competitor. This man knows sim racing inside and out. He's ever present in all leagues. He's all around the place, and he's such a nice chap as well. Hat and Lego Speed Champions collector. So there's our little interesting tidbit about this man, Monkey Matt, and creator of Hectic News. Go check it out. It is very, very cool. And so let's now talk about the car, because the Toyota 86 Group 4 car, what a wonderful bit of technology this is. Race 1, Race 2 have been so exciting, so much strategy involved, so much technical driving. The slower speeds in the Group 4, Nathan, but we saw it's about consistency. It's about nailing the apexes, and you've really got to drive this. It's a driver's car.
Yeah, it really is, and I mean we're seeing it at the moment with the tracks that we've been to so far. They've been very handling tracks, haven't they? We're yet to really see a top speed track where the sort of straight line speed comes into play, and we're going to see that later with the Tokyo Expressway, as you mentioned. But yeah, so far we've had tracks that really play to the Toyota's strengths. It's light, it's nimble, it's agile. It really goes weird. Like you turn the wheel and it just points where you want it to go. So yeah, there really isn't much better of a platform to run a sim racing competition on, especially one as high caliber as the NZ Esports Racing Series.
So let's look at Kyoto Driving Park, 6.846 kilometers, 20 corners to go through. And this is the key thing here. This is the Yamajiwa and the Miyabi layout combined, not just the traditional track, which is the sort of Yamajiwa only circuit that cuts off somewhere around turn 8 or turn 9 and jumps back into the sector 3 that you'd usually have at Yamajiwa. The Miyabi circuit, of course, will take us all the way around and through some of these beautiful bends down the hill of Kyoto Driving Park. It is a stunning location. This is a very, very long lap. Turns 1, 6, 12, aptly known as the Tire Killers, Tire Killer 1, 2, and 3. Long sweeping corners put a huge strain on the right-hand side tires, causing them to wear extremely quickly. So grip loss is going to be a massive, massive factor here. We've got one mandatory tire, and that's the racing hards. We'll talk about the strategy in just a second, but Kyoto Driving Park is a fantastic circuit. As you come through turn 1, burn up that right-hand tire, then straight into the S's, straight up the hill and down towards turn 6. It's a stunning place.
Absolutely, and I mean we talked about it with Gran Turismo. Like, if there's one thing they really do well, I mean obviously the game looks phenomenal, the cars are really well modeled, but their original tracks, the tracks that they make from scratch, again, this place doesn't exist in real life. There is no Kyoto Driving Park, there's no race course with this sort of layout, but I mean the team at Polyphony really know how to build a racetrack that is engaging, it's fun, and it's got all the different layouts and variants as well. But this is definitely going to be a race of tire smoothness, I suppose, because like you say, there's not one, not two, but three massive left turns, which that's going to put a huge strain on the right-hand tires. So yeah, look, whereas the Brands Hatch and Red Bull Ring was about consistency and sort of handling, this is going to be more looking after your tires, especially in the context of a sprint race rather than a full-size feature race, I suppose.
Exactly right. Let's take a look at our strategy, tires and fuel today. Tires 3 times and much less than we've had in previous races. I think Brands Hatch was 7x tires. Now we've got 3x tires, so we'll be going a little bit easier on the tires and fuel, which is great. We do have a mandatory tire today. That's the Racing Hards, expected to live for about 11 laps. Again, we've seen about plus or minus 2 on each of these tire sets throughout the last couple of rounds. But 4 times fuel as well. Getting pretty used to the fuel usage around these kinds of circuits now. This is going to be an interesting one, though. It's sunset. Okay, so it's late in the day, maybe cooler tires, maybe a little bit cooler temps outside. But you've got that choice. Do you spend the entire race on the hard tires, which is all you need to do? Or do you go for 1 lap on the hards and jump onto the mediums and go like the clappers?
Well, that's the question, isn't it? And again, it's so easy to just do the whole race on the hards, but if you're brave, you might try the mediums. The only question there is, will you get enough of an advantage to then negate the mandatory pit stop? Because if you don't do your pit stop and you're on the mediums and you disobey the tyre rules, you get slapped with a penalty that puts all of your hard work straight in the bin. So there's really not that there's no advantage, but you would have to be very on the pace to make enough lap speed and enough track position to warrant it. But that's not to say that these guys can't do that. We've seen it before, haven't we? And we probably will see it again.
No, we certainly have.
Yeah,
I think,
who's going to be brave?
Well, that's it. I think we're going to see an interesting choice between that go on the hards, go jump onto the mediums immediately, just jump into the pits, and then, or we're going to see a lot of runners on the hards just lasting it all the way through the race. I think it's going to depend a lot on where you qualify. So qualifying going to be super important today. And at a circuit like this, which has a lot of corners, 20 turns, it's a long circuit, 6.8 kilometers. That is only a couple of 100 meters shorter than Spa-Francorchamps. So that's this is as long as some of the bigger races that we would see on a calendar of GT7 racing. It's going to be a fascinating, fascinating little race. Now, we are having a couple of little technical issues behind the scenes, so we're going to take a very, very short break. We'll be back after a very short intermission, and we will talk to you all very, very soon. Stay tuned here on the Resport Esports Twitch, the NZ Sim Racing TV, Twitch, and YouTube. We will see you all in a few moments' time. All right, thank you very much for your patience, ladies and gentlemen. We're about to go racing for qualifying at the beginning of race 1. We've got, I do believe, about 8 laps here at the Sunset at Kyoto Driving Park, Yamajiwa and Miyabi, and qualifying now kicking off. Let's head out on track and get a view on the circuit. This is going to be a really, really exciting one, Nathan. I just cannot wait. Let's go and see. It's a beautiful track to behold, of course, and it is one of those beautiful times of day. Sunset, you get that lovely sun coming down across the stunning tarmac that we have here today. And I do wonder if this is going to be maybe a little bit of a problem for some people as they head up the hill. That sun going to be bright in their eyes on the entry to turn 6.
Oh, yeah, it's one of those things that you have to deal with as a driver, isn't it? And it can be negated to an extent depending on what camera you're using. A lot of drivers are using the bumper or the bonnet. We know for a fact that Matthew McEwen swears by chase cam, which is a bit of an unpopular pick for some, but I mean, he's the top in New Zealand, so who are you to argue? But yeah, look, it's one of those things, especially with such a short quali session too. Everybody's on the medium tyre, so we talked about the medium being the risky option for the race, but in a qualifying context, obviously everyone wants as much grip as they can get, right? So, but then what we saw at Brands Hatch was that as much as you have that grip, these guys have got a lot of track to cover before they even get to start their lap, and that means looking after their tyres, because if they scorch them all on the outlap, we're already starting to see them start to chip away their tyre life. That can really add up, especially in the context of a qualifying session. There's a lot of factors to a lot of factors to get right, such as having enough track space. Obviously, you don't want to get caught up with someone else when you're trying to set a lap. Then there's your tyre grip, then there's your fuel. A lot of these guys are trying to fuel burn, so there's so much that goes into making that perfect lap. But, a lot of these guys, they're here because they are very, very good at Gran Turismo 7. They know the ins and outs and sort of how to be fast, so we just get to sit back and watch the show, don't we?
We sure do. I would be a little bit worried maybe about going too easy. You don't want those tyre temps to drop out of a window for a good hot lap after the outlap. But, as you said before, we're here to watch and to learn, actually, in fact, because these drivers are so good that we both learn all sorts of different things while we are doing the commentary. And I'm sure those in chat do as well. So let us know if you've got any questions, if you've got any predictions, do let us know in chat. We are fascinated to hear what everyone is thinking. At the moment, we're watching the Castrol Livery Toyota 86 Group 4 car of Scotty Ray. He's out first, and there's a big pack behind him. Simon, Matthew, and of course, Big Head Ted, all in a row. Maybe looking to get a little bit of slipstream, maybe a few cheeky things here. First outlap now completed, so we're on the first outlaps now for Scotty Ray, and of course with a 10-minute qualifying, boy oh boy does it go by fast at a track like this. That outlap, 2 minutes 30. That means we're looking at a maximum of maybe 4 laps. Oh, Airborne has made an early mistake. He's on the hard tyres to begin with. That is not a good thing to be doing.
Well, see, we talked about this at Brands Hatch too. He's one of those ones who hasn't actually touched the game in a couple of years. You know, obviously he's a professional FIFA player, and he's come back for the NZERS. I don't think he understands that the game has changed, and you can actually change tyres post-race. So it's one of those things that used to happen a lot in the World Series. You know, 3-4 years ago, was that the tyres that you had, the tyres you wanted to start the race on, you had to go out in qualifying and then pit for your qualifying tyres, and it would start your race on hards. Otherwise, if it'd gone out on the mediums, it would have started on the mediums. So possibly a little bit of a, again, he's been out of the loop for so long, and maybe someone needs to sort of flick him a message and say, hey, look, you can save yourself a bit of time and not do that. But hey, look, ultimately, as long as he gets a lap in, I'm sure he'll be fine. He is one of those guys who doesn't need too much. He's been out of the game for so long, and yet here he is pretty comfortably in Div 1. So that sort of pace doesn't come from, you know, you don't just sort of get that overnight. He knows what to do. Maybe someone just needs to bring him up to speed on that teeny tiny little detail, but other than that, happy days.
Exactly right. So looking further down the field, Monkey Matt, of course, in P3 at the moment, all also on the hot lap. We'll see some times coming in a few short moments, because we've got Scotty Ray just heading into the last sector, coming out of the Miyabi area and back into the Yamajiwa part of this Japanese circuit. Beautiful, beautiful place. Love the graphics on this game. Of course, they've done such a good job. Even with the fictional tracks, it really does look like we are in the land of the rising sun. In this case, the land of the setting sun, because it is sunset. Simon Bishop is pulling away from Monkey Matt, who's got Big Head Ted, so maybe a couple of corners there that Monkey Matt would like to forget, into one of the trickier circuits. We'll go for a full onboard lap with one of our qualifiers in a few short moments. That is basically an RNG chicane right there, and all Monkey Matt has gotten it slightly wrong. Still on track though, probably still get a decent qualifying time out of it, but he has pulled out of it. So that's Big Head Ted on through, and he'll get a decent time under the hood. Let's see what the times coming across the line are. So it is Scotty Ray. He's the first one across the line. 2:30 immediately usurped by Simon Bishop at 2:28.1. Big Head Ted, Dive Cable, both up into those P2 and P3 slots respectively. Monkey Matt are not on a good time either. Matthew McEwen, P8 on medium tyres, comes into the pits, wants a fresh set.
Yeah, and again, with qualifying, like, the tyre wear is still on, so if you're particularly angry, if you're particularly aggressive in these sessions, you can rip up your tyres. And again, we're seeing it now with 1, 2, and 3 tyre killers. We've been calling them TK, haven't we, all week about these particular corners, tyre killer. And, you know, with minutes left to go, is it worth chucking on a fresh set and having one more crack? Because it's a lot of driving, isn't it? This course, 6.8 kilometres, that is definitely one of the beefier. It's bigger than Bathurst, not quite as big as Spa, but it's a lot more punishing than Spa in the sense that you don't really get too many spots to have a rest, do you? It's just constant corner after corner after braking zone after. There's only really about, probably I can count 2 spots there where you'd be able to have a break and sort of a mental, you know, but yeah, and you're seeing it now with such a fluctuation. I mean, the first couple of rounds we had incredibly tight qualifying sessions. We had about 5 drivers within a second. Now the spread's a bit more like sort of 1 or 2 or even 3 seconds. So early days, you know, they've still got a few minutes to sort themselves out. But yeah, this really is a punishing track to get right. Easy to master, but easy to learn, but really difficult to get that one golden lap, isn't it?
Agreed, 100%. And getting that fresh set of tyres can be key. I mean, the only way that I've learned to extract time from a circuit like this is to lean on the tyres like they are, you know, they have infinite grip. That's the only way to do it. Or a little bit wide there from Matthew McEwen. He's on an outlap, of course. It doesn't matter too much. Is letting a car go on behind him. Angus GTR up into P11 with Clan Fever in P10 right now. Pretty decent showing. Caleb. Now, I think Caleb's setting a bit of a trend here. He seems to like to muck up all his laps until the final second, the last chance he's got to come across the line. We saw that at Brands Hatch. He managed to take pole position with that final lap at Brands, which was a mega lap, but he did it at the last possible moment. We might be seeing both Matthew McEwen and Caleb setting this trend of the race pole sitters, ending up right at the back of the grid until that last lap, all able to put it together when it really matters. Some more results coming in live. We're going to go on board for a full lap with the legendary Simon Bishop. Let's see. So turn 1, really, really fun corner this. It's got an inside camber, really nice, just drops in towards the apex. Then you're into the S's, high speed, uphill. Got to ride those curbs, got to be careful on the throttle in some cases. And this one here, you can ride over it, just be careful about how you drop off the exit of that curb. It can really destabilize the car. Now we're into second tire killer here, turn 6. You turn it in, you lean in hard. You can see the car in front of him taking a very wide line. That's what you want to avoid because it burns the tires up even more and is very, very slow. On the exit, ride the curb, come down the hill into the braking zone. Traditionally, you go off to the left for Yamajiwa. Now you head into the Miyabi section. A really, really tricky turn here at turn 8. Get it launched down the inside, but keep it to the outside as much as possible because you want to open up turn 9 as much as possible. It's another long corner. Does also affect tire wear through there too. Turn 9, technically a tire killer 0.5 or so to speak. 2.5, let's call it. In through the snaking sections here, turn 10, turn 11, and into the final tire killer 3. This extra left-hander for the Miyabi circuit. This one goes downhill towards the exit. A beautiful, beautiful part of the track. Feels like you've got a lot of grip. Got to be careful on the exit. As you go down the straight, make sure you don't run over that curb. There's some nasty sausages there that might catch you out. Hard braking zone. Got to get that right. There's a barrier on the left-hand side. Turn in another corner. You really want to hug the inside apex because it continues. It's 2 apexes here. That's where the Yamajiwa circuit usually continues on through. That's where we entered Miyabi. Now to the left, up the hill, to the right, and into my favorite corner here, turn 16. The beautiful braking zone. Get it done nicely. Get into the inside apex. This is beautifully demonstrated here by Simon Bishop. Hold it on the apex. Run over that curb. Don't run too wide on the exit. You want to get that power down as soon as possible because now it's the RNG chicane. 17 and 18. Turn it in. You're down the hill. Pray. Get on your knees. He's done it right. He's run a little bit wide. A little bit of gravel kicked up. A beautiful execution of the RNG chicane there. Then into turn 19. Stunning part of the lap. And then onto the pit straight. What a place this is. And Simon Bishop, 0.6 of a second lead at the moment, still holding on with that 2:28.1.
Mate, you swear that you teed that one up with Simon to perform such a perfect lap while
Seems
you
like
were
it.
riding on board with him because that was an absolute masterclass. He didn't go faster that time, but again, second-hand tyres. He didn't make a pit stop unlike so many of these guys, so it's going to be interesting to see how Caleb goes too, because obviously he hasn't done a banker lap, so this is win it or bin it for him as far as qualifying session goes. Other interesting one too, Airborne P5. We didn't expect that one to sort of crop up. He's done very well, and obviously we are still seeing the last few times trickle in now. But yeah, I mean, dude, that's a lot to process over the course of one lap, and these guys have got to do 8 laps. So.
Exactly right. Oh, Matthew McKeown takes pole position by 89 hundredths of a second on his last lap there. Beautiful work by Matthew McKeown. That is such a close gap. Lewis still holds on to P3. Big Head Ted in P4. Airborne is in P5. We'll look at the rest of the results shortly. Let's see, because we've got one more car now across the grid. Clam Fever pulls into the pits. He's in P12. Angus GTR up from Div 2 in P13. Scotty Ray P11. What can Caleb do? This is the critical lap for him. He had a bad one on lap 3. He's across the line. It looks good. It looks really good. Oh, it's only good enough for P3 though. Wow.
Wow. And again, that, like we talked about, that's the risk that you run by not doing a banker. Not to say that a banker would have saved him then, but I mean, putting all of your chips on that one mega lap, that's, it works out sometimes, but in this case, I mean, look, P3's still nothing to be taken lightly. It's still, I mean, he started as low as 6th and he's won, the race. So I don't think he'll be too upset with that. But, when you're operating at this sort of level, obviously you do get a bit frustrated when you leave time on the table. And yeah, how good was that? And again, we were joking about the quali session being spread, and now there's 8 100ths between the top 2. So that's a little bit of a, we kind of got that one wrong.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we thought there might be a little bit more. It was looking like 0.6 of a second there because Simon Bishop had such a good lap. He did that early on, and I don't think Caleb's doing this on purpose. I think he must be pushing so hard that he ends up with this, in the situation where he has to do it all on that final lap. He may have to look at just going a little bit slower early on. We talked to him last week, of course, qualifying pole for him at Brands Hatch. And at the end, he did say, look, he didn't intend to do any of that. He's not like he's showboating for the crowd here, trying to put on a show for everyone viewing. But yeah, at the end of the day, that's cost him a little bit here, I think. He could have had a couple of really good hot laps in there, and unfortunately that doesn't come his way. So the results look like this. Matthew McEwen takes pole position for the first race of round 3. Matthew McEwen, I said. Yes, it was. Then Simon Bishop in P2, then Caleb in P3, followed by Lewis Atkinson in P4. Big Head Ted, P5, followed by Airborne in P6, one of his best qualifying results to date. Dive Cable in P7, followed by Stone Harbour in P8. Good result for him. Monkey Matt, P9. That is disappointing for Matthew. He is going to want to find his way back up to the top of the grid as fast as possible. We know how good he is at overtakes. We know how consistent he is. I think he's got a good shot at doing it. GD Crimson in P10, another who needs to find his way back up through the grid. We know he's so good with the car, but he just needs to bring that out on track. P11 goes to Fatboy Hustle. And then in P12, we've got Scotty Ray, that is, in P12. Clan Fever in P13, and Angus GTR was P13 until Caleb managed to get that last lap in, so puts Angus GTR down at the back of the grid. This is going to be a fascinating race. The qualifying's been good so far, really close margins at the top, and we're seeing if we can get our pole position winner in chat to have a little bit of a talk with us, because that's going to be one of what we want to do next. So let's get everyone's predictions in chat. Who is going to take out race 1? Let us know, and we shall see. In the meantime, we get now the pleasure of talking to Matthew McEwen, who is our pole sitter. Matthew, welcome into the commentary box, and congratulations on pole position in race 1. That's a tricky place to go driving at Yamajiwa, 6.8 kilometers, 20 turns. How's that feel to be back on pole position for qualifying?
Oh, pretty good. I'm really happy with it, actually. I made a mistake close to the end of the lap, and I could see the purple lap times coming up quite a way through the lap. I was 2.5 turns purple, and then suddenly made a big mistake at the final chicane, and so I was really happy just to barely keep it back on pole.
Yeah, but you did well, and it was only by 89 hundredths of a second, so nothing in it between you and Simon Bishop. A man you're familiar with racing, how does it feel to have him starting beside you for this race?
Yeah, pretty good. It's should just be kind of just the works, you know. I don't normally think too much of the big difference between all the drivers. Of course, you know, if I've got someone who I know is extremely dangerous, then you know I might start sweating. But I know that Simon and Caleb and Lewis and everyone else will be racing clean, and so my mindset's basically the same depending on whoever's in second or third or around me in first.
Excellent. We're going to bring in Nathan for a couple of questions as well. Nathan.
Yeah, McEwen, good job, obviously on the pole. Does the mindset change with, like, obviously this is a much shorter race to the ones we've had already? Does the mindset change with being only 8 laps versus something like 27 laps, or is the game still to just punch out laps?
I'd say the mindset stays the same. The strategy can be different depending on what happens. You know, for example, last week, even if I was in first, I still would have started on mediums no matter what, just because hards would have been a bit too dangerous and softs are just a great way to pit after 5 laps and find yourself behind the entire pack and just end up getting crashed into or slowed down a bunch. So yeah, I think the strategy was you know, had to change up a little bit for this. It just, you know, seems pretty obvious what the strategy is going to be today. But I think the mindset has to just be the same either way.
All good. Well, yeah, good luck for the race, mate, and we'll yeah, we'll be watching, won't we? Because the last time you started on pole, it didn't quite go your way, so I'm sure you're going to want a lights to flag.
Yeah, well, I'll be watching out for that as well. If that happens again, then I don't know, I'll cry.
Good luck, Matthew McEwen. Thank you for jumping into the interview box with us. And we may be speaking to you after race 1 or maybe race 2. We shall see. But good luck out there.
All right, thank you.
Fantastic. Well, that is an excited man. He's glad to be back on pole, which of course, rightly so. And he trusts those around him to race fair. I'd say that's a pretty good situation for a race start.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, look, you know, so much can happen in such a short space of time, and he can only do so much to prepare. It's really one of the things that he is really good at, and that's why he's the best, is really analyzing what's going on around him. So if the people behind him are being really aggressive, if they're piling on the pressure, he's not quite so susceptible to falter to that sort of thing. But I mean, as we saw at Red Bull Ring, he's not alien, he's still human. So yeah, I think this will definitely be one that he'll be trying to sort of keep it all very calm and concise. And look, after the first lap and things sort of spread out a bit, it'll probably be just business as usual. So no, we're going to be exciting. And again, we've got a whole another race to come up afterwards. So even if this one doesn't quite go how he envisioned it, he gets to try again, essentially from pole as well.
Exactly right. Yeah, assuming he gets the win in race 1. We'll talk about that, of course, during our intermission. A couple of comments here from chat. Thank you all for jumping in and giving us some predictions here. Stone Harbour, once again, not predicting himself for a win. Okay, this man's predictions have been... But his predictions have been 100% so far, so you can't fault that aspect of it. Nonetheless, Airborne saying you could also bribe them with KFC, Simon Bishop. It's a pretty good plan. I think that could work out quite well, actually. Yeah. Give the man a bucket of KFC. He's not gonna jump in the race. He'll be quite happy to sit in the pits and eat. Caleb in chat saying Simon Bishop, that was a crazy lap considering it was on full fuel. Ooh, interesting. Right.
See, again, some of these guys like to get really tactical with their fuel burning, and then there are some people that could do a ripper lap with 1 liter or with 100 liters. So different mindsets and different ways that drivers prepare, isn't it? So it's but again, ultimately it's the events of what's about to follow that matter. So that's interesting that that he brings up the full fuel load.
Well, and of course we've got to mention as well that Simon Bishop was not feeling well during Brands Hatch. Still got a good result out of a P4, and I've just seen him in chat as well. He's still feeling a little bit under the weather. So he's definitely moving in the right direction now. Qualified P3, I think it was, for Brands Hatch, and now qualified in P2. So he's trending in the right direction. Must be feeling a little bit better this week, which is great. We're glad you're feeling a lot better, mate. I'm not going to read that comment there, but that is hilarious. Excellent work. I think we're ready to go racing here, Nathan. Let's get ourselves out on track and get these lads on the grid so that we can count down to what's going to be a fantastic race. Any predictions from your side?
Oh, mate, I reckon Lewis or Ted might well be able to mix things up here. We've talked a lot about McEwen and Simon and Caleb, obviously, but dude, there's still so many people that can take the fight to them yet.
Exactly right. Well, let's jump out on track and have a little look because we're about to go racing. Okay, well, Matthew McEwen leads us away. We've got Simon Bishop in P2, then Caleb in P3, Lewis in P4, 4 lights, 5 lights. It's the whole false starts will be penalised. Lights are out and we're going racing in race 1. 8 laps ahead of us here, of course, at the Kyoto, Yamajiwa and Miyabi circuit. Matthew McEwen, it's good getaway. Look at them all, single file immediately. They know exactly how to find the best 3 speed through turn 1. A little bit wide there for HC Lewis. It looks like Caleb still holding on to P3 nicely at the moment. Simon Bishop still holding on. Big Ted looking for a move early on before the S's. That's a dangerous place to try it. Usually you stick in the slipstream as long as you can until turn 6. Dive it down the inside when everyone's trying to widen up that exit. Look at this gaggle of top 5 cars. Simon Bishop on the inside of Matthew McEwen. It's going to be a move into turn 6 as predicted here. Beautiful stuff, but can't give it the space that he needs. Matthew McEwen runs wide though. He's ended up compromised from the situation. Matthew McEwen falls to P3. That lets Caleb up ahead of him. Lewis is now looking for a move, but McEwen and Caleb are side by side as we head down to the big braking zone into turn 8. Oh, Matthew McEwen, a move up the inside. Stunning work by the number 1. And Matthew McEwen through on the inside at turn 8. Stunning dive up the inside. That puts Simon Bishop back into the grips of Lewis Atkinson. Caleb also loses a couple of positions there. What a first bit of action. We're into the Miyabi circuit now. This is absolutely epic.
Yeah, McEwen's really made a Lazarus and come back from the dead on that one because he lost so much spot, so much momentum, and now he's fought his way back into the lead. The real loser of that start was Airborne. He kind of bogged the start, almost like he flinched on the handbrake, but then he managed to get it back on, avoided a penalty, but straight away he was under assault from Dive Cable and Stoney, but he sort of gathered it up now. But I mean, dude, how good was that recovery from McEwen? That is amazing that he's even ahead, let alone pulling away at the moment. I mean, wow.
Oh.
I knew he was quick, but wow.
that was a confident send, that's for sure. Now, Big Head Ted's just had a moment coming out of the chicane after Miyabi. It's put him in danger zone because he's got dive cable who's moved up ahead of him.
Around.
Oh,
Airborne's
big accident
around.
there. Massive accident.
Oh, that was unfortunate. That was just Lewis getting a little bit. He tried squeezing him out, which he's within his right to do, but it just went wrong on that instance, and he's got damage too. So that's an unfortunate first lap incident. That'll no doubt go to the stewards post race. But oh man, it was going so well, and this is the problem with these shorter races. Everything's a bit more frantic, isn't it? These guys know that they don't have nearly as much time to make spots. And, I mean, that's what happens. So.
That's exactly it. Lewis Atkinson just slid around the final corner there. So he's giving it everything, wants to get back up into position. But you're right, these shorter form races, they do encourage more overtaking, take the opportunities. We saw Matthew McEwen executing one of those opportunities beautifully into turn 8. Unfortunately for Lewis, when he came out and into the final turn 16, it was not the same situation for him. And we'll try and get that on a replay at some point. Now we've got side-by-side action here because Lewis Atkinson's trying to keep Scotty Ray behind him. Damage on the car is huge. Scotty Ray has ended up diving off the side of the track. He's hit barrier, and that is going to be his race in tatters. Oh, there's a big screeching in the background. What on earth has happened there? Oh, no, the 22. He's reversed up into Airborne. So it's a poor track rejoin there for Scotty Ray. Just reversed into the middle of the circuit onto the racing line. Not ideal at all. Got a bit unlucky there, did Airborne.
That was pretty ugly. But and again, it has to be daunting for these guys because they get the late call up into Div 1. So they go from racing people that, you know, they're sort of able to fight for upper spots, and then straight away they get put in literally Division 1. It's got to be a little bit intimidating. But I mean, look, that was just particularly unfortunate. And again, Miyabi Kyoto is just such a punishing track, and I mean, you're already seeing it now. We're only 2 laps in. Interesting too, the fact that Stoney and Ted are still continuing to argue for these positions. They're really they're sort of taking turns gaining spots in the tire killers of all places. They sort of, you know, one of them gets up the inside and then they do the switch back, and the other one gets up the inside. So we don't know how long that argument's going to last, because obviously that's a developing situation.
Too right. In the meantime, talking of arguments on track, well, the top 3 absolutely going for it. Matthew McEwen still leading. The gap back to Caleb is absolutely nothing. These chaps have been 3 wide into as many corners as I can count on my hand right now, and that is a lot of corners. That's 5 corners in a row. They were all 3x3 going in, trying to send, trying to get in front of Matthew McEwen. Caleb is holding off from Simon Bishop, who drops a tire onto the grass, goes very, very sideways. Purple sectors being set by Matthew McEwen. He holds the fastest lap at the moment. He's going even faster this lap. It's the 2nd lap only of this race so far. The action has been absolutely astonishing, and this looks like a bit more of a convincing lead now for Matthew McEwen. Is out to 0.6 of a second. Not the best final corner though, I'll be honest. Caleb much closer to that apex, does a really good job swinging things back in, and now we get to watch from his perspective as we continue the chase on Matthew McEwen, who at the moment is set in that pole position. Simon Bishop though right behind Caleb. The gap is not massive. But then there's another huge gaggle of cars next, and there's P4, 5, 6 all in a row. Then 7, 8 moments behind them. This is absolutely crazy stuff here at Kyoto.
Yeah, well, I mean, you got people like Lewis, for example, who's obviously trying to get back up into where he should be. I use the term "should" very loosely because obviously everyone's entitled to the same spots, but he'll feel a bit out of sequence after that, getting caught up with Airborne and the damage that resulted there. Yeah, again, where do you look? There's just so much going on in such a small span of time. That RNG chicane, I think that might claim a few victims yet, as we're seeing. Obviously, the tyres are all starting to go down too. Interesting too. We'll find out obviously within the race if anybody ended up going for the medium route. I don't know. I don't think that you would, but you know, we've been surprised before, so there might be someone who sort of tries the left field option, I suppose. But other than that, if assuming everybody's on the hard compounded tyre, it's just going to be an 8-lap sprint to the finish, because you're not going to want to chuck fresh tyres on. You'd lose too much time, wouldn't you, George?
Oh, you would, yeah. I mean, the pit lane transit time it doesn't seem like it's worth taking at all. You know, you've got to be going 4 or 5 seconds a lap faster on the medium tyres consistently. Minimum, absolute minimum, to make up the time from going into the pits. So I think the hard strategy, it is the mandatory tyre. You don't have to jump on the mediums for this race, so hard tyre all the way to the end, the way to go. Now, Monkey Matt here, he has jumped up from P9, qualified in P9, into P5 ahead of Big Head Ted, and he's only 1.2 seconds off dive cable. So this has been a great drive today so far by Matthew Smith from Christchurch. Fantastic guy. Hectic news. You can see Hectic on the side there of his car, the purple machine. And he's going after dive cable. We're at a rate of knots, cut 2.2 of a second out of him just in those last couple of corners exiting Miyabi. Monkey Matt is going to be on for at least a top 5 here if he can keep it on track.
Absolutely, and we're just watching them all file through the RNG chicane, and you know, most of them are very, I mean, I think Caleb probably got a little bit wider there than he would have liked, but by and large, I mean, look at P4 dive cable, you know, he wonders why we keep talking so well of him and so nicely, but I mean, the fact is he's sitting on the bumper of Simon Bishop, you know, that doesn't just happen. So, and I mean, on a completely cosmetic look, how good does this track look under lights too? How good do these cars look under lights? This game, Gran Turismo, is just such a gorgeous game. Say what you want about the physics and about the simulator status, but this is one attractive looking game, especially when you've got 13 of the best drivers in the country lapping the circuit.
Exactly right, and we've got to remember, of course, Gran Turismo has the biggest history in esports racing, bringing drivers over into real-world racing. So the physics here are not to be underrated. They're not to be put down. At the end of the day, this is a real driving simulator, and the racing in this game is absolutely fantastic. Now, we have, of course, seen a little bit of a drop-off here from Simon Bishop. 1.5 seconds the gap now to Caleb, so Simon Bishop has really burnt up those tyres. He might be looking to do a little bit of a late send, so conservative part of the stint for him. He's actually just gone purple in Sector 1 by 17 hundredths of a second, I should say. So he is starting to ramp that pace back up, but boy, oh boy, Matthew McEwen and Caleb are really starting to set the pace here. 2:29s. We're at quali pace right now. This is incredibly quick for this track. It will be burning up their tyres, and I think Matthew McEwen, he said that he wasn't going to sweat too much because he could trust the driver next to him. I think Caleb's going to be putting the pressure on for the entire rest of this race, especially given the gap. I don't think Matthew McEwen's going to be sweatless by the end of this race.
No, well, I mean, it's one thing to trust a driver, but I mean, when that driver is genuinely wanting to race you for the pole position or for the first position, you can't be too complacent. I mean, we know Caleb's capable of getting the move done, but I mean, we have talked in the past about how traffic does slow you down, and so, you know, it's going to be there's a decent gap at the moment. Caleb's got 1.2 to the car in front, 1.2 to the car behind, so he's in a nice little sort of no man's land. He's not being attacked, he's not under attack, he's not really attacking McEwen, but yeah, as we sort of tip into the halfway point of that race, dude, halfway through the race already. I mean, how action-packed could you get a sprint race, especially at the Kyoto Miyabi track? And
it doesn't feel right after round 1 and 2, does it? Because we've had such long races, 27 laps.
No,
Brands Hatch, this feels unusual.
That's exactly it. It feels like we're already sort of ready to say, hey guys, thanks for tuning in, see you next week. But no, we're not even halfway through, just tipping over the halfway point of the first race. So yeah, there's still a lot more to come yet. And I mean, you're seeing now some of these guys are really starting to hurt with having done a few laps of the tyre killer corners. The interesting too, the midfield is still as tight as ever. What do we got there? 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th, all within Kui. And I mean, dude, we know how quickly stuff can get flipped on its head in that regard too, because it just takes one accidental move, one slightly ambitious move, and then that all gets undone, doesn't it?
It does indeed. Unfortunately, I do have to report that Fatboy Hustle, I think that's GT Ted, has unfortunately exited. He's having wheel issues at the moment, so that's really unfortunate, and he's had to pull out of the race. Man, hopefully that hurt.
But see, this is the thing too, because it's a double header, hopefully he can get it sorted for the next race. If it was any other week, that would be his night done. But he's potentially got the chance to front the grid for the next one. So, I mean, hey, look, hopefully he can sort something out. Might want to make sure his DualShock's all nice and charged, and maybe he can controller it, even just to get a few points. But yeah, what do you? That's never what you want to see, especially in these sorts of competitions.
Certainly
Interesting
isn't.
too. We talk about the tyre killer corners. The entire little Miyabi bit of the track is pretty much one big tyre killer, isn't it? Because it's what, 1, 2, 3 massive left-hand turns. Which, I mean, you're seeing it now. Some of these guys are really starting to hurt, especially on the left-hand turns.
I've seen a lot of people starting to drift. You can see the rear tires starting to lose a lot of that grip, and the drivers expecting to have the grip are leaning even more on the tires, trying to bring that rear end into line with where the front of the car is going, and it's not actually working for them now. It's becoming a real liability for all the drivers out there. This beautiful battle up front. Dive cable, as consistent, as steady as ever. Gareth is holding off Matthew Smith right now. Big Ed Ted chasing after the two of them. I did also note as well, we had an attempted overtake by Lewis on Clan Fever earlier on. That's for P8. Lewis managed to pick himself up a 0.5-second penalty, though, so things are going bad to worse, sadly, for Lewis Atkinson, which is a real shame. And he was just, I don't know what happened in that first incident, but it has not helped his challenge today. And if he finishes where he finishes in race 2, he will have to start from that position he finishes here in race 1. Very, very tricky for him now, and he's going to have to make a lot of overtakes at the Tokyo Expressway. Luckily, and we'll talk about this soon, slipstream, a big topic of conversation for the South counterclockwise as we head there in the next race. Lap 5 of 8 now completed. 6 laps are now on the go. That means 3 laps remaining. Matthew McEwen does retake fastest lap of the race, 2-minute 29. 007, love to see it. Always my favorite number, except for the flat zeros. Oh, Monkey Matt, he's going to make a move on Dive Cable up the inside of turn 1. It's a beautiful move. Dive Cable just doesn't have the grip to fight that back, and I think it will be Monkey Matt who takes that position away, and that's P4 for Matthew Smith in this race. And Gareth, that's Dive Cable in P5. He's going to have to now defend, because he's got Big Head Ted rapidly coming through those S's so quick. Got a lot of overspeed there. I think Dive Cable was rather compromised in that section. Barely holding on through Tyre Killer 2. That is a tricky, tricky place with the tyres in the way that they are. Bear in mind, Stone Harbour right behind Big Head Ted. So we've got a 4-way battle now for P4. Although I think we might say that Monkey Matt, now that he's got the position and a bit of clean air, he'll probably be putting the foot down and going pretty quick. Let's see.
Yeah, Monkey Matt's, of that little battle pack, he's actually got probably the best condition tyres. He's done a great job of looking after them and making them work. Interesting to note too, Big Head Ted has absolutely tortured that front left. Like, he's by far the worst of the tyre life. The second worst, and you might find this one interesting, is Caleb. So whether or not he's just, he might need to sort of ease up a bit, but then he can't ease up because he's got Simon KFC Bishop right behind him, and he's gonna have a look at this into the right-hander, but he's not going to make anything work there. But yeah, so Caleb might have compromised himself in that early part of the race, and he's probably going to pay for it now because he just does not have the grip or the road holding ability to really fight. He's going to try his best, but there's only so much you can do when your car is compromised.
Yep, into turn 16, defensive move there from Caleb, but he's run way too deep through the apex, held way too much speed. That gives the outside line now to Simon Bishop. Are they going to try side by side through the RNG chicane? Let's have a little look. Oh, it nearly is. Caleb, though, does pull ahead. Simon Bishop rightly backs out. And I think this is actually some really smart strategy driving here from Simon Bishop. He had the tyres drop off a little bit, then he backed out. He backed out of that. He was 1.5 seconds behind, and he's gone, right, I just need to bring the tyres back into that window. And now that he's in the window, Caleb's suffering. This is prime opportunity for overtake. It's not necessarily if now, but when for Simon Bishop.
Yeah, Simon's good at playing the long game, and he knows that if he doesn't make it stick this time, he can just back out and try again, and he's going to try again now coming into the first of the tyre killers. But look at how compromised Caleb is. He's just opened up the door, and Psyduck could go, hey, thanks for that. That's my spot now. And, I mean, there's no better way to demonstrate just how poorly Caleb's tyres are at the moment than what you just saw there. He could not close the door on Simon if he wanted to.
And it's a bit of a runaway train for Caleb, isn't it? Because the worse the tyres get, the more you have to defend, then the more compromised your exit is, then the less speed you have on the straight, and then suddenly you're back into the braking zone trying to defend down the inside, and that just means that Simon Bishop, as easy as you like, let's take out order from KFC right there. He's gone, thank you very much, I'll take my wicked wings, and I'm going to go and take P2. And of course, P2 here means you're starting on the front row of the grid for race 2. That does make a big difference.
And we haven't really mentioned yet, but he's running a completely different livery again. This time it looks to be one of the Lexus Super GT liveries from the, I believe that's the 2016 season, the Lexus RCF that ran the AU Toms. But he's obviously trying to be a favourite candidate for the livery competition, which I mean, hey, it looks the part, and it certainly he can look good and go fast. So, but I mean, talk about Caleb again. You're right. It's a real negative feedback loop where the worse it gets, the worse he has to drive, and that just makes him slow. I mean, he's 2.5 seconds clear of Monkey Matt at the moment, but I mean, with the better part of 1.5 laps to go, it's going to be interesting to see if he can really hang on to that one, because he's just like, yeah, I hope he can, but we'll see. We'll see. That gap is fluctuating, actually. It's sort of floating around the 2.3, 2.4, 2.5, so yeah, we're already we're already getting towards the last lap, George. Again, it's gone by so rapidly, and again, Matthew McEwen, 2.5 seconds clear. He's just, you know, no need to push, no need to take any unnecessary risks.
Looking down the field, and P4 right now, Monkey Matt, of course, as Kiwis, we all know that fourth is the best position to be in, as per all the adverts that have been shouted our way, with the fourth is first place. Nonetheless, Dive Cable right behind him. There was a bit of a tire screeching moment. I think that was from Stone Harbour in behind, but a beautiful three-way battle for P4 evolving. Monkey Matt has not gotten away from these three at the moment. However, Big Head Ted has fallen behind. He was overtaken by Stone Harbour, now has to sit in the P7 position, and rather in the doldrums, he's got a 2-second gap in front, a 5-second gap behind, and that 5-second lap leads to this man right here, whose race has not gone the way that he has wanted, and that is Lewis Atkinson for Hoon Corp. And unfortunately, that is going to be a race that he's going to have to fix in race 2, a situation he's going to have to fix in race 2. Clan Fever behind him in P9, then GD Crimson, also from the old Palmy, I believe, and he is currently in P10, so last of those positions. We're on the final lap of the race. P11 currently sitting with Airborne, then Scotty Ray, and then Angus GTR. Of course, we've had Fatboy Hustle, unfortunately not able to continue this last part of race 1 due to wheel issues. We really, really hope to see him back as soon as possible. Matthew McEwen, what a lead, what a drive so far, and that defense that he did against both Caleb and Simon Bishop has paid off dividends, and he had to defend very, very hard. He said he didn't want to sweat too much. I think he'll be sweating bucket loads at this point, and hopefully not sweating into any KFC buckets that may be held by the man behind him, Simon Bishop, in P2. Currently, it's absolutely stunning work by him. That overtake was as easy as you could have done it, really. Poor Caleb.
Yeah, absolutely textbook. And again, he's still holding off. He's just on 2 seconds clear of Monkey Matt, but that gap is rapidly diminishing. But again, he's got about a third of a lap left to go. So, you know, he'll probably be sweating, and he'll probably be watching that rear mirror with great interest. And you know, again, nighttime racing, you'd almost want to flash the lights and try and sort of throw them off. We saw a bit of that sort of gamesmanship at Brands Hatch, with some people using the hazard lights to try and sort of be a bit of a visual indicator. And you know, under lights like this is definitely the right time to do that sort of thing now, because lights are just so much more dazzling in the dark, aren't they? And you're seeing, I mean, the Gran Turismo does the headlights a bit funky. Sometimes you can't really see your opponent's headlights, but the reflections and the sort of trailing, and obviously we don't have ray tracing in game yet, unless you have a spare $800 to get a PS5 Pro. But yeah, it's that sort of gamesmanship that we love to see, and it's always a bit of fun, eh?
That certainly is. Stone Harbour has had an issue, and he's dropped back into P7, and that will probably solidify his position in P7. Bigger Ted in P6. No, he's going to go for a huge dive up the inside to the last corner. Beautiful move there by Stone Harbour. In the meantime, checkered flag taken by Matthew McEwen in race 1 here for round 3. Simon Bishop in P2, and Caleb comes across the line in P3. Wonderful move there by Stone Harbour to end out this race. Really, really good work. But Matthew McEwen, for the first time in the 2024 season, has finally taken a pole position and a race win, which means we get to talk to him twice in one evening, something that was a familiar situation to us all last time out. And this time he gets to come in and tell us how much he's been sweating throughout this race. But brilliant bit of action. Those early parts of the race, so difficult for all the drivers, vying for position, making small mistakes here and there. Then suddenly you get halfway through the race, things have cooled down, and then suddenly your tires go. And they've had to be contending that for the last half of the race. Absolutely brilliant stuff from all the drivers. And congratulations to Matt McEwen. That guarantees him a pole position, of course, in race 2, which will be coming up shortly. Let's take a little look at the results before we continue and get into our interview. Matthew McEwen, of course, on pole position, a 2:29.007. Love that fastest lap. Give me that every single day. Simon Bishop, P2. Caleb in P3. Monkey Matt, P4. Dive Cable, P5. P6 to Stone Harbour. P7, Big Head Ted. And P8 to HC Lewis. Right. Nathan, That was a mega
Yeah.
race. We're both out of breath. I mean, that was stunning, stunning racing all the way through. The most exciting 8 laps of racing we've seen so far in the 2024 season. We've got to pick out some stories to do a driver of the day for this first race. Let's have your thoughts on the race and some suggestions.
Well, look, I mean, the first story has to be McEwen's dramatic loss of position and then his subsequent retaking of the lead. I don't think anyone really sort of saw that happening as easily as that. I mean, he really did make it look easy. But then, yeah, I mean, there was just so much going on. Obviously, heartbreak for Lewis and Airborne getting tangled up really early on. Big head, something happened there with his tires. He was on the back foot pretty much from the get go. Um, and then yeah, and then obviously the situation with Caleb and just not quite managing his tires the way he should have, and leaving himself vulnerable to basically a free kick for Simon. So yeah, look, I'm sure there's a lot to take away from that, and these guys will probably be doing their homework and sort of seeing, okay, well, what can we do a bit differently for the next one? But like we say, there is a next one, unlike every other week. So yeah, what would you take away from that one?
Oh, I think there were some interesting moments. I think Monkey Matt P9 to P4 is a very impressive drive today. You know, I think he's done really well. He survived the chaos there, got ahead of Dive Cable, which was a crucial, crucial thing to do. Dive Cable just didn't have the pace to sort of come back at him. I think there's a few maybe honorable mentions down the grid as well. GD Crimson getting P10 there, not too bad. Clan Fever back up into the top 10 as well. Very, very good work. I think Clan Fever probably deserves a bit of love today as well, being in P9. He's making that recovery drive now, getting back onto the step. So let's start this driver of the day poll. We've got McEwen, we've got Simon Bishop, we've got Monkey Matt Dive Cable, and we are going to
Stone
have
Harbour. I'd throw Stone Harbour in there too. I
Stone
just
Harbour.
realised, dude, this is his personal
Oh,
best
yes.
finish of the season. 6th.
You're absolutely right. 6th place, Stone Harbour. What are we doing? Yeah,
And
absolutely.
he's one of our VR drivers as well, so he's doing all of that in PSVR too, which I mean, that in itself, we talked about how different that is to your regular sim rig with the views and the bumper cam, cockpit cam, all that sort of thing. So yeah, definitely I'd chuck him in if it's not too late for a last
Oh,
minute.
no, I've chucked him in. Absolutely right. While that is all going on, let's go and talk to our race winner, Matthew McEwen, who's going to be jumping into the interview box in a moment's time as the poll does begin. So let's have a little talk to our race winner into Matthew McEwen. I almost said the wrong name there. Matthew, congratulations
Wow.
on P1.
Yeah, that was.
Well done.
No, not him. Anyway, yeah, thank you.
Small issue with the naming there. I'll get that corrected for next time. We do get to talk to you for the first time twice in one evening in 2024. That's got to feel good. There was a lot of pressure early on, 3 wide in about 5 corners in a row, lots of defensive action, switching places, Caleb right hot on your heels. That must have been tricky at the start.
Yeah, it was tricky, but I had a lot of fun actually. It was quite an enjoyable race, and I ended up kind of just chilling out a little bit because I kind of just decided, hey, I'm just having a lot of fun here. I don't mind if this continues, and so I was happy to just let the race go crazy for a bit.
And you did so. Then the tyre life seemed to start to drop off for everyone in the latter half of the race. Did that affect you at all? You started to get that lead. It was up to 2.5 seconds, nearly 3 seconds by the end. So it must have felt a lot more comfortable at the end. Did you find that the tyre wear was becoming a bit of an issue? I mean, you've got 3 tyre killer corners, TK 1, 2, and 3, especially with this Miyabi extra bit of circuit on there as well. And while you also tell us about the tyres, that move in turn 8 on Simon Bishop to retake the lead, that was something very special.
Oh, that was that's the one on the transition from Yamagiwa to Miyabi, right?
That is, yes.
Yes. Oh, yeah. That was a hectic moment right there. I just braked as late as I did because I knew that there were people right behind me, and if I braked anything earlier than absolutely necessary, I knew that there was a good chance that it was just going to end up being me who loses out. And so I went as deep as I did. I thought it was just about clean and that it wasn't going to be an issue for Simon, but he went really, really wide, and it sounds like he got collected there.
That's exactly it. So let's have a couple of questions from Nathan as well.
Yeah, Matt. Well, was there a bit of a feeling of dread when you sort of lost all those spots so early on? I mean, that mustn't have been a very very pleasant start to find yourself so in the thick of it so early on.
Dare I say, maybe normally it would, but for some reason, I knew that the slipstream was really strong. Like Simon and Caleb really gained a lot on me a couple times when I was out in front and just smashing into a wall of air. And so I knew that if I ended up behind, then I should just be in the same advantage spot that they were. And
Mm.
so I wasn't really feeling too horrible. And then also with the tires, I did miss that just a moment ago. I do just want to say the tires were quite interesting, and I did notice on lap 4 or so that the gap did start to open it up, and suddenly any pressure really just kind of came off again because I realized that I probably have quite a few extra pixels on the tires.
Yeah, yeah. And was the drop off about what you were expecting, or was it more, or was it less? Or because I mean, we were sort of watching everyone else, and there was a wide range. Some people torched them really early on. Some people still had a fair chunk of life. You looked like you were, pretty comfortable, pretty consistent. But was it about what you were expecting?
I think it was a little bit lower than I expected, really. I'd been saving extremely hard in qualifying for that on my outlap to get the final lap in, and I'm not sure it was entirely necessary because like I was on a push lap in the middle there because I really wanted to get a 228, and I just couldn't quite get it. 7 milliseconds off, well, 8 milliseconds off. But that was already sort of 30-40% down on the right front. And so I was quite surprised that it was keeping the pace up, but I really just wanted to take the purple because it felt like I had good pace in that moment.
Well, I
Yeah,
believe you took
absolutely.
best lap anyway, 229.007. So don't discount the 007. Yes, it's 700ths off at 28, but still very, very impressive. So, Mr. Bond, you are in the race position that you should be, which is great. For race 2, P1 is where you're going to line up. That's got to be a good proposition. We're looking at driver of the day as well. We'll tell you later on if you do get it, but we wish you good luck for race 2, Tokyo Expressway. South counterclockwise, an equally tricky place to go racing for a very short number of laps. So we wish you all the best of luck in
Thank
that
you.
race,
I'm going to
Matthew.
need all that luck because I
Certainly.
haven't done a wink of practice here, so
Oh,
it could
dude,
be
Okay.
chaotic.
you're
I
not
might
supposed
be holding up the pack a bit, so it could cause some chaos.
You're supposed to tell them that you've, mastered everything and that you've got this, and you're supposed to like make them go, "Oh man, I've got no chance." Oh, don't give
Now,
that
see,
away,
this
man.
man is doing a James Bond right now. He's maybe it's a bit of psychological pressure here. We shall see. We shall see. Um, excellent. Thank you very much, Matthew. Go and get yourself ready for race 2. We'll be starting soon, and we'll be jumping back into the comic talks in a few moments' time. Thank you, Matthew.
All right, thank you.
Fantastic. He's covered. I'm not sure. I'm not quite sure just yet whether that was a lie or if that was truth.
Oh, and this is some of the mind games that you see with this sort of stuff too, isn't it? I mean, they love to sort of. I mean, dude, he might have done 100,000 laps around here. You don't know, or he might actually have. I mean, some of these guys really don't need a lot of practice to. I mean, you see some of the World Series stuff where they jump into a race and it's like they started practicing that day. So
Yeah,
yeah, dude, it's impossible to really know what is true and what's not. But I mean, we're only minutes away from obviously lining them all up, and then that's where all the BS stops, and we see who's really done their homework. So,
yeah.
um, yeah, I mean, it's just such a cool, interesting too. That driver of the day was a three-way tie for the longest time, so I was really sort of like waiting to see if anybody would break that tie, but looks like it has, and I think we got a result.
We do indeed. Stone Harbor has taken that. So I'm glad we got him in there because that was a huge storyline that we totally forgot about. P6, best result of the season so far for Stone Harbor, and a great drive. He was holding off and catching up to Big Ted, made that huge overtake in the last corner. This is why I'm equally, this is why I'm really surprised that we missed
Mm.
this as a story initially until you raised it up, because we were watching him right at the end of the race make this amazing overtake to get P6 back from Big Head Ted. We don't know what happened to him to lose the position originally, whether it was a mistake or something happened, most likely because the gap was pretty big. But yeah, congratulations, Stone Harbor. You are driver of the day for race 1. Absolutely epic. Right. So thank you very much, everyone, for your votes. We are going to take a short intermission. Stay tuned. Go and grab yourself a beverage of some kind, a few snacks. Get yourself settled back in because we're going to be back here for race 2, going to Tokyo Expressway, south counterclockwise here at the New Zealand Esports Racing Series 2024. Round 3 continues after a short intermission. We'll see you all in a few moments' time. Okay. Hello and welcome back to New Zealand Esports Racing Series. We've had race 1 of round 3. Now it's time to point our attention towards race 2. Of course, race 2 is going to be set from the results of race 1. That means Matthew McEwen will be on pole position, followed by Simon Bishop, then Caleb, and then we do have Monkey Matt in P4. So it's going to be a really exciting race, this one, and boy, oh boy, are we excited, because those 8 laps of racing at Kyoto were something else. Make sure you stay tuned. We've got lots coming up. A few mentions, of course, about our sponsors. Of course, primary sponsor, Toyota Gazoo Racing New Zealand, who are sponsoring the ultimate prize here for the champion of the live final, which will be a real race drive or a factory drive in a session with the Toyota 86 trophy car. What a fantastic prize. Thank you very much to them. Then, of course, Secret Labs and Respawn Esports Centre, who will be playing host to our live finals in Wellington on the 16th of November. Big thanks to Red Bull as well, who are providing some slabs of Red Bull given out to competitors as well. And then we can't go even further without saying a thanks to Next Level Racing, providing our 2nd and 3rd place prizes, the GT cockpit, as well as a haptic system for those positions, respectively, in the championship. Wow. Okay, Nathan, mate. Race 1, unbelievable. Now we get even, because we were talking a lot about the graphics, and we talked about this in the intermission as well. The graphics in GD7, absolutely beautiful. I think this is possibly one of the most beautiful places at the right time of day to be going there. It's Tokyo Expressway.
Yeah, you don't really get much more picturesque than the neon lit highways of Tokyo, and of course, very, very popular location for like ACC or Assetto Corsa servers. You see a lot of people doing not even racing, they're just driving, because Tokyo and the expressways are just such an attractive place to drive high performance cars. I mean, it's like that for a reason, and Gran Turismo has obviously captured that magic with, obviously these are closed courses, there's no free roam as much as people want to wish that there was. But I mean, these are just some very, very high quality racetracks, and I mean, you alluded to it at the beginning of the stream. This particular layout is probably the cream of the crop. The other ones are all right; they do the job. But this is the one that you really want to be competing in, because, I mean, how good. It's got something, it's got everything. It's got your hairpins, it's got your nice fast flowing bits, it's got tunnels, it's got the dockyard. It's such a picturesque racetrack, isn't it?
It is, and a big thing as well is going to be strategy around it, because of these long straights we've got. There's slipstream going to be a big factor in this. Braking zones, pit entry is something we're going to talk about when we get to our strategy section, because that is a major consideration. We've got mandatory tires here, 2 of them, so not like our first race where we only had the hard tire as mandatory. We saw no one jump into the pit in that race. This time, everyone's going to be in the pit at least once. Let's go and have a little look at our circuit information, bring everyone up to speed on this fantastic circuit. Tokyo Expressway, 6.56 kilometers, nearly as long as the Kyoto, Yamajiwa, and Miyabi circuit. Only 15 corners. You can see that on the track map. These long straights, providing some fantastic racing and viewing, and a few less corners for the drivers to have to worry about as well, which I'm sure after Kyoto is going to be a breath of fresh air. Turns 2 to 5 are a key section. You can see that at the bottom of the map there. 2, 3, 4, and 5. Hard braking zone into 2, known as the docks. Drivers will chop and change their positions all the way throughout here. Positioning is key, especially on the exit as you head out in towards turn 6. And then down the runway you go, all the way through the highways. It's the first, this is actually another stat that Nathan was talking about earlier as well. This is our first street circuit in the New Zealand Esports Racing Series. So really excited to see how the drivers all do, going side by side with barriers to the left and the right. Turn 11, another hard braking zone. That's where the pit entry is. Nathan, this is such an important section, especially when people are pitting, because it's a short pit lane, it's suddenly there, and there's potentially some ways to take advantage of the location.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this is one of only, I think, 2 tracks, correct me if I'm wrong, someone in the chat, where the pit lane and the start line are on completely different points. So, people that want to, I mean, obviously, like you say, they have to pit at least once. They could do all of the race, and then they could pit on the last lap, get the tyre change done, and then drive all of about, 3 or 4 corners on the alternative rubber. Would that be advantageous? Possibly not. Interesting thing to note too as well, turns 4 and 5, so sort of that exit of the dockyard. Very, very easy place to pick up a penalty, and of course you've seen it before. If you've ever played Gran Turismo, if you've ever driven in a league, or even just raced for fun, that's a very easy spot to drive over the painted lines, because of course there's no curbs there. There's no curbs or grass or gravel or anything. It's just painted tarmac or asphalt. But as far as the game's concerned, if you're too greedy with those apexes, you will get slapped with a penalty. And there are no ifs or buts or appeals or protests when it comes to the time penalties in this game. If you're over, you're over. So that can also really play into effect. That's about the only spot that you would pick up a penalty. Obviously, like you said, George, there's a lot of walls and a lot of it can get quite tight and claustrophobic, so you couldn't cut those corners if you wanted to. But that is still no less, especially if we're going to have a pack of cars as tight and as close as we saw in race 1.
Exactly right. And speaking about strategy, we'll get onto that in a few moments' time. Turn 12 to 14 as well. Up on the highway, the raised highway here at Tokyo, through that lovely flowing section. If you haven't driven this circuit, go and buy Gran Turismo 7. You will not regret it. Second of all, go and drive this circuit and drive that last sector before the pit. Well, I would usually call it the pit straight, before the checkered flag straight. I guess we have to call it now. As you said earlier, it's one of the only couple of tracks in the Gran Turismo game that actually have a separate start line to the pit entry, which is key. But yeah, that flowing section there, which I wanted to call Serpentine, Nathan wanted to call the highway, and we've kind of compromised and said it's the Serpent Way. So we'll come up with some names for some of these corners. This is yet another fictional track in Gran Turismo 7, and boy, oh boy, have they done a fantastic job. So watch out for those corners. Turn 2-5, the docks. Turn 11, the hard braking zone and the pit lane entry. And turns 12 to 14, going to be extremely key in this race. Let's look at strategy, tyres, and fuel. 9 times tyres. That means for every lap they do here, the tyres will experience 9. That is a huge amount. 2 mandatory tyres. They have to use the racing mediums and they have to use the racing hards. Expected life, respectively, for those is 4 laps and 9 laps. That means you're going to be struggling with one or the other tyre at some point in this race. Of course, 9 laps here at midnight. Going to be a really, really tricky one. Less fuel degradation, though, here. That's mainly because we have the long straights, so the fuel will be going out at a slightly higher rate.
And that's, I mean, yeah, for those of you doing your quick math at home, 9 times tyre wear with a 9-lap race, that's 81 laps that those tyres are going to be subjected to. Simulated, of course, but they're not going to be very chipper for very long. And, I mean, again, we saw it in the first race. People that perhaps burnt their tyres a bit early on, they just did not have the grip to fight when the blowtorch got put on them later on. So I think there's going to be a few more people here sort of possibly playing a bit more passively, not to say that they'll roll over, but I think tyre life is definitely going to come into effect here. We've had Red Bull Ring, which was a fuel race. We've had Brands Hatch, which was a strategy race. And now these 2 races have both been, or is going to be, a tyre race. So that's definitely going to be a bit of an interesting to play out. I mean, these guys, again, they've done a lot of practice. Although, if you believe Matthew McEwen, he hasn't done any practice. But again,
do you believe the rumours or not?
What sort of strategy do you go for? Do you start on the hard tyre and have grip up your sleeve, or do you start on the medium and make that early push? And again, it's all well and good to have that strategy in your mind, but then the other people aren't necessarily going to adhere to your strategy, and that can cost you time. We saw that at Brands Hatch when Caleb got massively held up by other traffic, and he can't do anything about it. You can't just drive through them. So
exactly it. Yep, that's exactly it. We have had a couple of comments and chats from some of our drivers, Matthew, McEwen, Caleb, both saying 5, maybe 6 laps on the medium. So as always, a sort of +1 or 2 on all of these estimations. Just depends on how good you are getting around the circuit and managing the tyre life, and that's going to be absolutely key today. Right, well, Nathan, I think we're pretty much ready to get the drivers out on track. They've had their practice, we've had our intermission, and I think everyone is back at their seats and ready to go, and it's time for us to get this going. 9 laps at Tokyo Expressway, south counterclockwise, coming up in a few moments' time. Really looking to see who is going to get this race done. Lots and lots of points up for grabs today, of course. So it is a key thing for the drivers to make sure they get a good result here. Matthew McEwen is going to be on pole position for us in this race. Then it'll be Simon Bishop, then Caleb, then Monkey Matt, Then we've got Dive Cable, Stone Harbor, Big Head Ted, and HC Lewis. 4 lights are on. 5 lights are on. We wait for the false grid start and for the race to begin. Lights are out. And there we go. Matthew McKeown got a good start. Simon Bishop is going to immediately jump into that slipstream as we head down towards turn 1 for the first time. Is it going to be a defensive move from Matthew McKeown? No, he doesn't need to. Simon Bishop quite happy to sit behind for the moment's time. It's a bit wide there from Monkey Matt. He might have raised the barrier on the outside line. Not ideal. The top 3 already running as fast as they possibly can. Look at Caleb. He's up the inside as we head into the tunnel. Monkey Matt under a lot of pressure from Dive Cable. Behind, they're going 2 wide, nearly 3 wide through the tunnel. And this is where the slipstream is so important, into the docks for the first time now. Turns 2, 3, 4, 5. Such a tricky area. Monkey Matt runs very, very deep, very, very wide. Simon Bishop, good inside line there. Can't do anything on Caleb at the moment. Caleb holds on to P2. Monkey Matt holds on to P4. No, he's lost P4. He's actually gone behind Dive Cable. So that move that ran him very, very wide, taken advantage of. This is exactly what we were talking about the docks, when you have to figure out if you're on the inside line, the outside line. So great move there by Dive Cable. Monkey Matt is going to have to fight him back to get back up into that P4 position. Simon Bishop and Caleb side by side through the second tunnel section. We're heading down towards turn 11 now. This is the longest part of the track. Slipstream, they're fighting over it. Feels a little bit like Sainz and Perez. Hopefully no crash at the end of this one. Into the hardest braking zone of the track, turn 11. Such a tricky braking zone. Will we see anyone file off and jump into the pits? We shall see. In behind, and we do have Monkey Matt and Bigger Ted fighting for it. Oh, Caleb is going to lose out here a little bit. He'll have good run out of turn 11. Simon Bishop is now on the inside line of Matthew McKeown. They're side by side, and I think Simon Bishop has done it. Yeah, as we come around the corner and head into the Serpent Way, that is Simon Bishop in the lead of this race, and Matthew McKeown is going to have to settle for second.
Yeah, that's an absolutely intense start, and of course it's not over yet. Caleb is absolutely putting the blowtorch on McKeown. He wants that spot back. The big loser out of that first lap, I would say, was Lewis. He got absolutely punted by Clan Fever, which kind of helped him. He got a bit of momentum, obviously, to pass other people, but now he's found himself under assault again by Clan. So he's just really getting the he's got the hard luck award for the lap 1. Interesting too, Dive Cable once again, Johnny on the spot. He's waiting for McKeown and Caleb to trip over one another. Meanwhile, Simon just absolutely drives off into the, well, not the sunset. The sun's already set. It's pitch black here at Tokyo. But and now Dive Cable's going to go to the left. He's going to have a look, but the road does narrow up here, so McKeown's going to have to give him some room. Of course, they can't just pretend that the other cars aren't there. And Dive Cable with a brilliant run. He's managed to slipstream this entire way. He's even going to try and challenge Caleb for the run into the docks. He's going to try for the outside. And again, we talked about how easy it can be to get a penalty if you're too greedy on this S-bit. So they're going to want to sort themselves out before they get to here. Are they going to make a move? McKeown cutting that inside, so hopefully he's avoided a penalty. He did. I can't say there was 4 wheels off, but there was certainly a fair chunk of the car off. Just waiting to see. I think he's escaped that time, but he was very compromised. He's back in 5th now. Where have we seen this narrative play out before? So Monkey Matt's made his way up to 4th, Dive Cable 3rd, Caleb 2nd, Simon 1st. I mean, that's just the top 5. It's still going, even the rest of it. The entire field, all 13 cars, within 7 seconds.
That is amazing. This racing is so close at the moment. Yeah, Matthew McKeown hit the outside barrier on the exit of the docks. That compromised him massively. Monkey Matt took advantage, finds himself up in P4, but now he's under attack by the champion of the 2023 season here at NZERS on the inside line, turn 11. Then it's going to be a beautiful move back by Matthew McKeown. Does he get it stuck? Yes, he does. Beautiful stuff. That means Dive Cable is the next one in the target sights for Matthew McKeown. In the meantime, at the top of the grid, we've got Simon Bishop and Caleb now starting their fight. I do wonder what the tyre choice has been as we head through the Serpent Way for only the second time of 9 tonight. The tyre choice might be a critical aspect in some of this, but we'll hear from that a little bit later on. Lewis has managed to get up ahead of Scotty Ray. Yeah, let's hear about it right now, in fact.
Yeah, absolutely. So Stoney and Crimson both peeled off into the pits for that one. So they were on the hards. They've now bolted on the mediums, but they now have a heap of clear tracks. So they're going to look at punching through these laps and doing the massive undercut. That's their that's what they've put their money on. So yeah, I mean, this is the thing too. The guys who are running mediums, who are perhaps dealing with a bit of traffic, will no doubt be feeling the frustration trying to get past. But then the guys on hards know that as much as they might be a little bit compromised right now, obviously once we get to that halfway point and everyone's sort of done their pit stops, the order will flip. potentially, as far as domination. So it's yeah, look, we're already starting to see some of these strategies play out. They've cast their lot with the undercut. Now we get to see if that pays off for them, and of course we've only got 7 laps to wait to see. So I mean, absolutely, this is the sort of tactical mind, and they really have to think on their feet too. This is the sort of thinking that they would have done as soon as the race started. They saw how it all played out. They decided, right, this is what we are going to do, and let's try and see if it works out. Meantime, Dive Cable sitting there comfortably in third. McEwen is he's within Cooey. I think we're going to see a bit of a send at this hairpin. This is definitely the one spot where if you're going to send it from someone, that's the place to do it. So and again, they have to do it clean. They can't just go with too reckless abandon.
Yep.
McEwen really putting Morse code on his bumper. He wants him to know that he's there. Goes for the right. He's going to send it up the inside. Look at those brakes glowing too. The nice hot rotors as he gets the move done. But of course now Cable's got the switchback, and there was a bit of contact there though. I think that might have been a little bit dodgy. McEwen chucks on the hazards just to sort of say, hey, that wasn't too cool. Not too happy with that. But all the while, Monkey Matt's sitting there just waiting for another big mistake so that he can capitalise. He's only a 10th off Dive Cable, who in turn's only a 10th off McEwen. So this battle for basically the bottom step of the podium is far from over yet. But then of course Simon Bishop and Caleb fighting for the win. So we've got fight for the win, fight for the podium, and then fight for pretty much everything else.
Exactly, and it was only a few corners ago that Caleb did make a send at the docks, hard on the brakes, and he went past Simon Bishop. So Caleb now in the lead of this race. Matthew McEwen in P3 at the moment. Simon Bishop putting so much pressure back on Caleb, wants that lead back as soon as possible from the man who has been a staple at the top of the grid. One that we expected to see high up, but he has taken a win to his name already. Didn't work out from at Brands Hatch today. He wants at least one race win. That'll keep him even Stevens with Matthew McEwen. Brilliant battle right now. Matthew McEwen. Dive Cable's going to go out on the edge. He's going to try and late brakes. Not going to work. And as you said, the brakes are hot. Well, the racing's hot as well. Monkey Matt going to try down the inside line. A little bit of contact with the rear diffuser of Dive Cable. Nothing coming of it, though. A little bit wide through that second section of the docks from Dive Cable, but he has managed to hold on to that beautifully and continue. In the meantime, Simon Bishop, 0.2 a second is the gap right now at the top. Caleb holding on for dear life. Interesting to see those couple of strategies start to evolve here. Makes me wonder what the top guys are running on in terms of tyres at the moment. They look like they're going quite quick.
Well, if they're on the mediums, I mean, the prediction was 4 laps, so we might see them all dive into the pits now. But that was an average figure, and these guys are all very much above average, so, you know, they might get a bit more. Just watching too, Lewis was getting under pressure from Scotty Ray there. They're sort of going toe-to-toe and sort of trading jabs and trading spots.
And it's up the inside for Simon Bishop. Once again, this is where Caleb got the lead of the race away from Simon Bishop. He's done the exact same, dives down the inside. Beautiful work there by Simon Bishop to retake the lead of this race. We've got a few in the pits. Big Head Ted and a number of others. Lewis as well. Lewis was on the medium tyre there, it looks like, when he jumped in. We've got a couple on the hard tyres jumping into the pits, one on the medium tyre. Interesting split that we're seeing at the moment, but another change for the lead of the race, and Simon Bishop and Caleb putting on a show for P1 and P2.
Yeah, that's certainly an interesting mix. I mean, you think that it would have been either mostly mediums or mostly hards, but that looked pretty much even. And again, as we start the first lap, once again, we're already over the halfway mark of this race, aren't we, George? It just flies by so quick when you chuck these guys into a sprint race format. Again, you're starting to see these tyres maybe come towards the end of their life. Again, 9 times tyre wear, which is absolutely titanic. I don't even think the World Series used to run tyre multipliers that high. So these guys will be really... And the rapid degradation also means that, you know, the line that they took at this particular corner, at this particular lap, the very next lap, the tyres are 9 laps worse off. So, I mean, how do you adapt to such rapidly deteriorating rubber?
You have to change your racing line and adjust very, very quickly. Absolutely. There's a big battle at the moment. P11, P12, P13, Crimson, Scotty Ray, and of course Stone Harbour all going for it. Lovely bit of racing here. Slipstream in use there by Stone Harbour on Crimson. Crimson's in the lead. They're going to go into the docks. Is it going to be a late braking manoeuvre by Stone Harbour? Yes, it is. Huge send down the inside. It's gone so deep though. That'll be a cutback for GD Crimson. And then the Stone Harbour, Scotty Ray, has managed to take advantage as well. They're side by side. Crikey, that's crazy stuff at the docks. It's providing so much pleasure in those late braking zones into turn 2. Beautiful, beautiful work by these two. In the meantime, inseparable right now on track. Completely inseparable. Caleb and Simon Bishop going for it. They're coming into turn 11. Will one or the other be jumping into the pits? Let's see. It looks like they're taking a wider line.
Looks like
Both
they're going in. So they're both going in. McEwen's opting to stick out, so maybe he's on the harder rubber. He was really, he wasn't necessarily on their bumper, but he was certainly within Kui, and we know that he can make the suboptimal tyre work. So, I mean, look, that's just some masterclass tyre management there. And again, because there is a tyre change in this race, you can sort of drive a bit less sort of abandoned, unlike the Kyoto race where that tyre wear just got worse and worse and worse. The fully gripped hards are better than worn mediums, so there is a bit of a reprieve in that regard. But yeah, unfortunate for Crimson and Stoney, because they pitted really early. They tried for that undercut specifically to get out of the way of traffic. So that those interactions with Scotty Ray and all that is only undoing their strategy. And maybe, hey, look, if it worked, they would have been rock stars. So it's just one of those things. This is the thinking on your feet that you have to do when it comes to the racing. Lewis looks like he's having a largely uneventful one. He's sitting in 8th. He's about 1.3, 1.4 to the guy ahead and behind, which is he's probably appreciating a bit of a breather following the absolute hounding that he got at Kyoto. Ted's also looking a lot better, in a lot better shape too. Simon and Caleb obviously have just pitted, but now they've got to deal with not lap traffic, but they've got to deal with traffic because Angus is there, and of course blue flags do not apply. He's on the lead lap, so they have to pass him fair and square, and that's going to hold them up, and potentially that's going to be net positive to McEwen.
Exactly right, yes. It's going to be a fascinating battle with Caleb and Simon Bishop now behind Angus GTR. We do have one missing from the grid, of course, a question in chat about that. That is Fatboy Hustle, GT Ted, not able to get his wheel reconnected in time, unfortunately, to enter this race. A real shame to see him have to drop out of race 2. Here we go, it's on. And it looks like Angus GDR said, you know what, I don't want any part of that whatsoever. It's Caleb, it's Simon Bishop. You know what, I'm just going to get out of the way. Yeah, he could have been an absolute cork in the bottle there, and he would have had entitlement to do exactly that.
Yeah, he would have been completely within his rights. But, I mean, hey, look, oh no. I think McEwen might have gone over the pit lines there on the entry, and if he has, then that'll
And in the meantime, Simon Bishop's about to go for it too. I've just lost the camera view. Let's try and jump back onto it. Simon Bishop down the inside once again, because Caleb looks like he had got the position back. These two are just going back and forth, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And look at that. McEwen spits out right behind them, so there wasn't really an undercut from McEwen or Caleb, or from Simon or Caleb. He's pretty much come out within Kui, but the difference is his tyres are now a lap fresher, which, of course, as far as the game's concerned, is 9 laps fresher than Simon and Caleb. So it's going to be interesting to see if he can sort of keep within range and then make up that pace, because he's got 1.2 seconds to the two of them, and he's only got about 3 laps left to do it.
Yeah, he's got to make up a lot of pace through the serpent where we go across the finish and start line of this race. That is 6 laps done, onto the 7th lap now. Decent lap from both of them. Look at the slipstream power here. Caleb actually using the bump draft. He doesn't want anything to do with Matthew McEwen, who he knows behind. That's his main rival in the championship so far. Both of them hitting the wall. Low downforce through there for the car behind, but Simon Bishop making a little bit of a mistake through turn 1 and down the go towards the docks. Monkey Matt is provisionally leading this race, still needs to come in for his pit stop. Matthew McEwen, that is looking very, very good for him, but he needs to be super, super quick. He needs to be running in the low 206s if he's going to make up the time, or he needs these two to fight. You saw there just before, Caleb, he doesn't want to fight. He wants to work with Simon Bishop. He knows he can overtake him. He knows there's a braking zone into turn 11, into turn 2, that he can send it on Simon Bishop and maybe retake the lead of this race just before the Serpent Way to the final corner and then across the line at the end of this race. Very tactical thinking here by Caleb. I'm sure Simon Bishop will appreciate the bump draft.
Going to be interesting too to see where Monkey Matt spits out. He's got a gap of about 11 seconds at the moment, and McEwen, I think he had about the same sort of gap, and he spat out right behind them, so there's not too much in the ways of pit loss here. Obviously they don't need to worry about fuel. Fuel's not an issue, it's just put on new tyres and go. So provided he messes up the inside of the pit lane though, he's definitely he's the last to pit. So he's possibly cost himself a little bit of time just when he needed it most. But yeah, we're gonna keep an eye on where he spits out in the order of things, because now he is the one with the best tyres. So it looks like, yeah, that last bottling the pit entry did cost him greatly. He's 3 seconds to McEwen. So
Ooh, this battle is
that
looking
too
really
much?
interesting, Nathan, because Monkey Matt
Yes.
spat out. There's Big Head Ted, who's managed to get in front of Dive
Oh.
Cable. Right behind, they're both going to overtake him. They're going to go side by side in the Serpent Way. That's tricky, dangerous area right there. They're side by side. There's a little bit of touchy-feely by each other. They've lost a little bit of paint on the doors there, or a little bit
Monkey
more
Matt scratches
contact.
the wall.
It is
Monkey Matt hits the wall.
crazy.
Now Lewis is able to buy into this, and of course Lewis, Monkey Matt really out of shape. I thought he was gone there, but of course that's really cost him the momentum. He's going to try and catch the slipstream on Lewis and try and get back up into the contention order of things.
Wow.
But I mean, moments like that, you just have to hold your breath and just wait for them to come out the other side, don't you?
I do feel a little bit there for Monkey Matt. He got the pit stop done. He got out ahead. But then, of course, he didn't have the pace. You got no drive out of the pit lane. So
And
when
he'll
you
be
get into the
kicking
Serpent
himself.
Way, you just get completely overtaken. And in this case, by 3 cars, he's gone from a potential P4 to a P7 position. And actually, Lewis, he'll be quite happy with that. Up to P6, still got to chase down Dive Cable and Big Head Ted. Big Head Ted, by the way, up now into P4. That is the big winner out of this whole mid-pack situation, and P4 down is Big Head Ted. Oh, Dive Cable gone for a big spin there at the exit of the docks. That's going to cost him massively.
Oh, yeah, that was uncharacteristic mistake. I mean, we've been talking about his consistency all season, and even then he was on pretty consistent numbers. But that's going to really hurt his championship hopes as far as just every point counts, especially, and like we said, this double header, they're full points for both races. There's no half points because it's half a race. They're full points, so the complete title order could be flipped on its roof, and that's definitely a strike against Dive Cable. He's going to be kicking himself for that one. Lewis, though, like you say, he's celebrating other people's defeats because he's up to 5th now, just through no fault of his own. But Monkey Matt is now obviously on the much fresher tyre, being the last of anybody to pit, and he's going to really he's not going to want to wait. He's going to want to get past.
That's right, but maybe has left it too late. Only 3 laps, only 3 laps since he came out of the pits. Only 2 laps left now. Technically going to be on the last lap of the race in a few moments' time. Simon Bishop and Caleb absolutely going for it, and this is costing them big time. Fighting is not what either of them want to be doing. Really, what they're doing is jostling for the position. He's going to be fighting Matthew McEwen. The gap now between McEwen and this top battle pack is 0.7 of a second. We're on the last lap of this race. Simon Bishop pulls out to the inside line. He'll have a good run through turn 1. Likely retakes the lead of this race. A 3-way battle is evolving for the victor in race 2. Matthew McEwen is right in this. He has got a serious chance of taking home a win today, especially if these two continue fighting. There's only a couple of big braking zones left. We're heading into one of those now. Down the hill we go, back up through the tunnel and into the docks. Will it be a big inside move by Caleb? I think he's going to try around the outside. Not exactly going to be the easiest way to overtake, and Simon Bishop will hold the inside line. A little bit wide entry from Matthew McEwen. These 3 are close as anything.
Big send from McEwen too. He really tried to dive it and he just got it wrong. I don't know if you saw him in the back there going a little bit wider than he would have liked, but
very deep.
Very, very deep, but he managed to gather it up. I don't think he lost too much out of it, but like you say, he's running out of opportunities to really make a move stick, and of course there's a hairpin at the end of this very long straight, so he's now going to get about 20 odd seconds worth of slipstream, and then he's got one hairpin, one shot to really make it, send it, and possibly get one up on Caleb. Caleb's won a race, McEwen's won 2 races, and Psydog obviously hasn't run any races. So I mean, dude, this is
here we go into turn 11. Let's see what's going to happen. Simon Bishop holding the inside line as much as possible, but is that going to be enough? No, it's not going to be. Caleb is going to go for a huge send down the inside line. Has he actually made it stop? No, he hasn't. Caleb's going to lose 1 position. No, 2 positions. Matthew McEwen will retake P2 in this race, and Caleb has cost himself a huge amount from diving so deep down the inside line. Simon Bishop, it's only the Serpent way to go. This is Simon Bishop's race to win right now. Matthew McEwen wants to say something different different about that. He started on pole position, wants to finish the race in P1 as well, heading towards the last corner. Only a couple of corners to go, and then the final straight's all going to come down to how they exit turn 16. Matthew McEwen opting for the wider line, trying to get the power down early. It's going to be Simon Bishop's race. Simon Bishop is going to take race 2 in the thriller here at Tokyo Expressway. Matthew McEwen will have to satisfy himself with P2 in this race, and Caleb, what could have been a P1 for Caleb, has cost him at that turn 11 entry, and P3 will be his. Wow, that was an absolute thriller in Tokyo. What a way to end round 3, and congratulations, Simon Bishop.
Oh man, the KFC is on him tonight. I tell you what, that's gotta feel good. That's gotta feel really good for him, because he'll be stoked with that one. So we've done 4 races so far, and we've had 3 winners. So that sort of shows you just how intense this competition really is. These are the best drivers in the country, and they all want you to know it. That was absolutely phenomenal. So heartbreaking for Caleb. He had that one, and then he just went a little bit too deep. In fact, it turned into a fair bit too deep. But, I mean, look, I'm sure he'll still be happy with a podium. It's a 3rd place. It's still, it still is definitely valuable points towards the championship effort. But, oh man, you gotta be kicking yourself when, like you say, what could have been.
Yeah, the gutting thing there for Caleb in terms of the championship here is that he finished behind Matthew McEwen, and that is the key bit of information here today. Had he managed to keep Matthew McEwen in behind, he still would have been in potential lead of this championship. But now, no way. Matthew McEwen with a race win to his name and now a P2 to his name, he's going to elevate himself and get himself a whole bunch of points to push himself past the challenge of Caleb in terms of the points. That said, the finish in Div 1, if you finish P1 at Div 1 at the end of the online season, that's 6 championship points you take into the live finals. That is a 1-point difference, though, to P2. So, will it matter that much at the end? We shall see. It's still well within the top 10. Some fantastic battles all the way down the grid, Nathan. Big Head Ted, H.C. Lewis. What a comeback from H.C. Lewis today.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was, again, he would have just been hoping for a cleaner race after he was in the wars a bit in race 1. And, so he'll take that one with both hands, I'm sure. And again, Crimson trying the alternate strategy of he tried to undercut everybody and didn't quite flesh out the way that he wanted. But I mean, again, if he'd pulled it off, that would have been a rock star move. So look, you have to try, and especially with motorsports being like we said at the start, motorsports is completely unscripted. You can only prepare so much. But then once that green flag drops, the unscripted drama that follows is what keeps people watching in their hundreds and in their thousands, and that's why we love all these, the big endurance races and the series of the likes of the Formula One and GT and all that sort of thing. But
That's
at the
right.
end of sometimes just the more traditional, just looking after your tires and keeping those laps going is the way to go.
Right, so let's talk driver of the day, because there's a few. I've got my laptop here ready to set up the poll, but I think there's a few stories out there today that we need to mention. I'm going to put up one vote here for Big Head Ted, because that was a great finish. I think you're going to suggest H.E. Lewis for a bit of a driver of the day nomination there today. What do you think?
I would agree with that.
You would agree with that? Okay, so Lewis is going to go on the board. Of course, we have had all of Simon Bishop, Matthew McEwen, and Caleb in the polls already. Can we think of some more stories? Chat, let us know as well if you think of any good stories out of today's race. There's quite a few, because that was super, super intense, and there was a lot that we couldn't cover during that race. But I have to say, Simon Bishop has got to be on there.
Oh, mate, 100%. Like I said, he's a new race winner. So this series, we've had 3 race winners out of 4 races. So that's definitely a worthy inclusion there.
That's right. So we need 2 more for this. I think it's very tempting to put Caleb on there, but that send at the end just kind of soured the pill a little bit, didn't it? It was just.
You think he doesn't deserve it because of the botched ending? I mean, harsh, but that's if you got other candidates. I mean, up to you, man. It's
all right. Let's put Caleb on there. Let's put McEwen on there. Of course, top 3 doing so well this time. Let's get this poll going, and then let's start our race interview. So, ladies and gentlemen, go and vote in the poll that is below right now in Twitch on the Resport Esports Center Twitch channel. Of course, we're going live to both the Twitch channel and NZ Sim Racing TV. Let's have a chat to Simon Bishop and see how he is feeling after his first race win in the New Zealand Esports Series Season 2. Simon, can you hear us?
I can. How's it going?
Excellent. We're fantastic because we've just witnessed possibly one of the best races this season, certainly one of the best races in GD7 I've seen in a long time. You were in that all the way through, defending right up until the end. How are you feeling after a lot of pressure from Caleb, from Matt McEwen? That was intense.
You're not wrong. I thought at the start Matt was on hard tyres, and I thought he had us dead to rights. And then when I saw him pit with mediums, I was like, oh, we're on here. And then, Caleb and I just basically went 9 rounds, basically every lap. And then I kind of figured out as the race was going on, the way that the slipstream was working, that you kind of had to be ahead on the last lap, I think. And then I had a bit of a brain fade, hit the wall and gave him the lead with 2 to go. And I was like, well, that works out. And then, pretty pleased with that. I was a bit annoyed with myself in the first race. I feel like I probably should have been right up there for that. And then, to win what was effectively for us the oval race when I'm a NASCAR man, I'm quite satisfied with it.
Absolutely, yeah, and big congratulations there. There was a lot of back and forth between you and Caleb. He was looking quick. He was using the braking zones and the docks at turn 11 all the way through. You guys pitted at identical times as well, so same strategy execution. It was just that send right at the end from Caleb, and you must have seen him flying past you on the inside thinking, yeah, he's got a bit deep on that one.
Yeah, I realised I'd gone a bit deep too. I thought we were just going to give McEwen another win. But I only just made it. But yeah, I knew that he was always going to have a go, and fair enough, I would too. But yeah, I just knew that if I could hug him to the inside, he was always just going to end up being like a bowling ball down towards the pitting tree. And yeah, pretty pleased with that. And then when came out of the hairpin with the lead and Matt behind, I knew that if I just didn't hit the wall, it was smooth sailing.
Yeah,
I'll
exactly
take that
right.
one.
Oh no, mate! Congratulations on the win there. Some questions from Nathan.
Yeah, I mean, like obviously we watched Caleb putting Morse code on your bumper all the way up to that hip, and did you have a feeling that he was going to sort of go really deep? Like, did you try and sort of fake him out a bit, or were you just as surprised?
I knew he was going to have a go because I would have. And so it was like, I just knew that with him bumping me along the straight, as long as I didn't get him beside me before we get to the hip, and I was all good. I'm sure Matt was rubbing his hands together in third because I would have been. I would have thought it looked like we were going to take each other out. But no, it was good. These cars are really, really fun to race around a track like that because they're really nimble, and the slipstream being so strong means you can get these huge runs. And it was great. I reckon we should just race here every week, to be honest.
We'll have a word to admin about that for the live finals, maybe. But tonight's racing, Kyoto and Tokyo have both been like very, very high tire wear multipliers. Is that the sort of thing that do you enjoy those races, or are they just kind of like just get the job done?
I used to be awful at them, and then I don't know what happened because I don't think I've changed how it is. So maybe it's the game, but now I can actually save tyres really effectively and bring them on, make it like 20 times tyres. But otherwise, it was. I quite enjoy them because you can. I don't know, the fuel races, you just sit behind someone and save fuel the entire time, whereas the tyre races, you're kind of encouraged to have a go, which I think is really good. I think Caleb was suffering from tyre wear. He definitely was in the first race, and I just knew that staying behind him was going to drag Matt up to both of us. So I knew that if I could get myself in position to give myself the best opportunity to win on that last lap by leading, then that was what I had to do. And I normally wouldn't pass at turn 1 at this track because it murders your run to the next corner. But if I didn't pass him there, I wasn't going to pass him anywhere. So worked out in the end.
Yeah, that was a beautiful, beautiful bit of work there from you, Simon. Congratulations. One final question I think we're all wondering about here, because we saw your driver profile. Is there a bucket of KFC maybe on the table for you as a reward for the race win today?
Not tonight. I can tell you that much. After last week, I don't need to do any self-inflicted illness, but we'll see how tomorrow goes, eh?
Fair enough. Congratulations on your first win of the 2024 season. What a drive today. Congratulations. Go and enjoy yourself a week break, and we'll see you back for round 4 of the online season.
Thank you kindly.
Thank you very much, Simon Bishop, ladies and gentlemen. Wow. Okay. Yeah. So, how cool is that? He was strategizing, let's say, Nathan, all the way through that. He had to get to first position on that last lap, and that was absolutely key for him. And we're stoked for Simon. You know, what a well-deserved win today.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, have a look at the sort of the profiles of the drivers that we've had winning races so far, because we've got Caleb, the young blood, who's, you know, obviously very new to it, and then you've got Simon, who's been around forever, and then you've got McEwen, who's not young, but he's certainly not old. It's you know, it's not the same demographic. There's just such a wide variety of, you know, anybody can come and get into sim racing and be this good at it. And I mean, again, these guys are it. So it really does show, you know, just how accessible and how varied sim racing can be as far as, you know, walks of life and all that kind of deal.
That's right. Yeah, sim racing shows no boundaries at all. This has been proven all over the world. It is accessible to basically every single person in whatever configuration that you want. Gran Turismo 7 is a fantastic platform for getting involved in that. And actually, I'd say in some ways, actually teaches you a little bit about driving safely. But that's a conversation for another day, because now we've got to talk about driver of the day. And looks like Lewis has taken it hand over fist there today in the driver of the day poll. So congratulations, Lewis. You do get the second race's driver of the day. Big congratulations. I'm sure admin will be in touch with you about that at some point. Wow. Nathan, mate, 27 laps of Brands Hatch, 28 of Red Bull Ring. Who cares? Give us 8 laps of Kyoto and 9 laps of Tokyo any day. What an evening of racing here for round 3.
Yeah, that was a lot more intense than the previous races. We do get we do sort of return to form for the next one, which, you know, that's, as much as it's a shame, it is cool because it makes this sort of stuff all the more intense. That it's rare, you know, it's very rare. And again, I don't think we know the necessarily the format of the live finals, but maybe we'll have to say to them, hey, look, chuck a sprint race in there just for funsies, because that was really awesome viewing, and I'm sure you guys enjoyed it too. We certainly enjoyed calling it, and yeah, bring on the next round.
Next round is going to be another exciting one. Of course, as you said, Nathan, we're back to regular formats. 4th of October, same time, same place here on Twitch and YouTube. Blue Moon Bay. I'm super excited for this one because Blue Moon is not a race that a lot of people like to feature on any platform. I mean, obviously GT7, but any league or any area. This is not a popular track. I absolutely love this track, and it's infield air as well. Yes, thank you, Edmonds.
Oh, mate. Well, you know, like we said, Gran Turismo are just so good at creating these tracks. Again, it's another original track, does not exist in real life yet, but it's one of those ones that it just, and the infield A layout, like you say, it's just so well done that, I mean, dude, why aren't Polyphony making real life racetracks? That is definitely that's one that I would build if I was in a circuit building position. I would definitely make a Blue Moon Bay course.
Yeah, I think they're heading towards spending all the funds on Gran Turismo 8 and not building real-life tracks, sadly for us. But nonetheless, it's going to be an exciting race next week. We are now halfway through the online season. It's a critical turning point for all the drivers. The top 10 in Division 1 with the most points to get themselves in that top 10 will be heading to Wellington on the 16th of November for the grand finals in the Respawn Esports Centre in Wellington. It's going to be a fantastic second half of the season. We are so looking forward to it. We've got more sprint races coming up in our final round as well. Round 4, 5, 6, going to be super exciting, super critical from now on. You've had your chance. You can make a few mistakes in the early half of the season. Now it becomes the critical time. You've got to get it right. You've got to do it as soon as possible. And we'll be back here racing and giving you the commentary and broadcasting here for NZERS in 2024. Season 2 continues in 1 week's time. Thank you very much, Nathan, as always, giving us great insights and analytics in the commentary box here. Nathan Howe, myself, George Cook, we want to thank everyone in Twitch and on YouTube, on the Respawn Esports Centre, and of course the NZ Sim Racing TV, Twitch and YouTube as well. Go and check out Respawn Esports Centre. We've got TikTok, we've got Instagram. Go and check us out. Get followed, get subscribed, give us some support as we continue to head through our online season towards the grand finals on the 16th of November. Thank you so much from us in the commentary box. We will see you all in the next one. Good evening, good night, and goodbye.